and together with dairy producers will be treated as priority areas. Steenhuisen also responded to concerns raised by MPs that some farmers have complained they have not received vaccines yet.
And so, yes, there will be some farmers that are still waiting for vaccines. They're probably in areas 2 and 3 in terms of the phased, prioritized vaccination process. But by December, every single one of those animals will be vaccinated so that we can hit the 80% mark that we have set for ourselves as the target.
Recapping the top story, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana says informed and not short-term responses are required to deal with geopolitical situations like the US-Israel war on Iran. The minister was speaking during the passing of the 2026 fiscal framework and revenue proposals in the National Assembly yesterday. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
It's a very good morning to you in your SFM Sports action. We've got live cricket action. The Proteas women in trouble. They're chasing 195 against New Zealand women, and the Proteas women are currently on 57 for the loss of 5 wickets. We'll bring you all this and more at around 6:30.
SAFM.
The Proteas women are in
through the rush hour traffic.
Very good morning. We start off in the Eastern Cape. Mthatha, CBD, big building fire overnight last night. Really big building fire. Corner of York and Leeds. There will be some traffic restrictions around that scene this morning. If you work in that part, you may want to just allow a little bit of extra time to get around those road closures, traffic restrictions, and the obviously pressure on a bit of parking maybe as well. Otherwise, we're looking generally okay. Driving into Pretoria though, just watch for a little incident on the N4. That's the Emelafeni Highway. Just moving through towards the N1 highway. Joburg, so I got a breakdown on the N3 North after Marlborough Drive, so watch for that coming up from the Alex side. Durban, a breakdown near Pavilion Mall. That's on your way out of Durban, heading in towards Pinetown. And Cape Town, it's building up on the N2 inbound. Traffic sitting from Spine Road through to the airport runway. That's slow passing Khayelitsha. And again, delays out of Mitchell's Plain. The M7 R300 routes queuing out towards Philippi and Samora Michelle. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's just gone 8 minutes after 6. Today is Wednesday, the 25th of March, 2026. Live from Auckland Park in Johannesburg, this is SAFM. The world you're waking up to this morning is significantly different from what it was when you went to bed last night. And that's because key news and current affairs developments here at home, on the continent, and around the world have continued to shape, carve, and contour your world with each passing minute, even as you slept. That's our raison d'etre. That's our very reason for existence. The reason we get here bright and early each weekday morning to fully brief you on those developments as you start your day. Good morning and welcome to the Wednesday edition of The Morning Brief. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. Among some of the stories we will tell you over the next 3 hours, naturally, the building fire in the center of Mthatha in the Eastern Cape will be one of our lead stories this morning, as you can expect. The historical Botha Sikau building in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape, which accommodates more than 11 government departments, has been on fire. And basically that blaze starting in the early evening yesterday and basically escalating over the hours into the evening. It's still unclear what caused the fire, but it does appear that the damage has been extensive and, of course, a lot of people reflecting on the history of the building. At 11 stories, I understand, 11 stories, it was the tallest building in the heart of Mthatha, and it has its history and roots in the period before what they call it around the independence, quote unquote, independence, when the homeland system was being really put into action. So that's the story that's playing itself out. What caused the fire? what line of investigation is being followed around it, and what's the extent of the damage, and what are the implications? Because in many ways, the landscape and the skyline of Mthatha has been altered quite significantly, if not permanently. So we'll touch base on that story, and we'll bring you full coverage of that coming up in the second hour of the show. And also, just before we get to that, at about 10 to 7, we'll talk about the fight over corruption in Tshwane. The Democratic Alliance has been preparing to present, in fact, has presented its case to the Madlanga Commission over what it describes as evidence of deeply entrenched mafia-like networks operating inside municipal tenders. These are not just issues about irregular contracts. They go to the heart of how essential services like water provision, waste management and security may be captured by coordinated interests. The contribution of the Democratic Alliance coming through after we heard the evidence yesterday that came from Rivo Spies, who is part of the Tshwane Metro Police Department now, previously with the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department, and now with Tshwane, who was outlining security tenders and how those feature in some of the wrongdoing and corruption that has been happening in the city of Tshwane. So we'll then take that conversation forward again this morning and talk about the allegations that the DA is now making and how those feature in that scheme of things in the city of Tshwane. So we'll speak to Jackie Ace, who is the DA Tshwane Chief Whip. That conversation coming up at about 10 to 7 this morning. Then at 10 past 7, we'll turn to this painful chapter in our history that is now under the spotlight at the Craddock 4 inquest that is taking place in the Eastern Cape. The former apartheid operative, the man who's been dubbed Prime Evil, Eugene de Kock, has taken the stand at the Craddock 4 inquest. His testimony raising difficult and at times unsettling questions, denying direct involvement in the killings while acknowledging his role in the cover-up and confirming that coded language for assassination was widely understood within the system. For the families, it's not just about history, it is about a decades-long search for truth and accountability that is yet to be fulfilled. The inquest, you'll know, is probing not only who carried out the killings, but how far responsibility extended within the apartheid state. So we'll be hearing from Lukhanyo Qalata, son of Fort Qalata, about what this moment means for the family and the broader quest for justice. We'll talk to Lukhanyo Qalata at about 10 past 7. And you will have seen in videos shared by some media houses on social media an interaction between Lukhanyo Qalata and Eugene de Kock, which was quite interesting to observe from afar. Perhaps he'll let us in on what it is that they discussed, just being on opposite ends of those events that took place many, many years ago. Then lastly, let me flag this story. 20 past 7, we turn to what is turning out to be a deeply personal legal battle over the estate of the late Musiwa Likota, the late COPE leader. And that has opened up wider questions about vulnerability, trust, and financial control. The Gauteng Division of the High Court, through a judgment, an order, has found that Likota was mentally incapacitated for nearly a year before his death, effectively invalidating major financial decisions made during that period. At the center of the dispute are substantial transfers to his partner, which the court says were not adequately explained, raising serious ethical and legal concerns. But beyond the individuals involved, the case highlights a broader and often hidden risk: how easily financial abuse can occur when mental capacity declines. We'll speak to Zola Mbata, fiduciary specialist and attorney, about what protections exist where they may be and where they may be failing, and that's coming up at about 7:20 this morning. Your morning brief team is primed and ready, locked and loaded as always, and Musa has your news updates at the top and at the bottom of every hour. Zaikan with the full rundown of sporting action, covering both all the developments on and off the field. Rob Byrne has his eyes trained on the country's highways and byways, and will ensure that you are the first to know should there be any snarl-ups on your route this morning. Melissa Puta will complete the picture for you with the morning brief in brief, and that is coming up in the next few minutes. And Ndauling Lechela will give you 3 insightful updates on business, economics, and the markets, coming up at 6:30, 7:30, and 8:30, or shortly thereafter. And Sipho Mantula taking you around the continent in a few minutes with his Africa update, and that's coming up at about 7 this morning. Your calls complete the conversation on any of the matters that we'll be raising this morning, including your reflections if you are familiar with if you live in Mthatha, for example, but also if you have any memories about the Botasikau building that has now gone up in flames. I'll take those calls and your contributions. The number to dial 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107. This is the morning brief. Context, consequence, and conversation starting now.
Investing shouldn't feel risky. It should give you security and good returns. Earn up to 7.25% interest per annum with an Absa Cash Invest Tracker for an investment of 100,000 rands or more. Your capital is guaranteed with immediate access to your funds. That's minimum risk, maximum benefit. Absa Private Banking customers can invest from just R1. Open via the Absa Banking app, a branch, a private banker, or 0860 111 515. Your story matters. Absa is an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
In business, the right connections change everything. It's the stability you need for that once-in-a-lifetime virtual pitch. The lightning-fast speeds that keep you ahead of deadlines and the consistent, high-quality signal your teams rely on every day. Because when your connectivity works seamlessly, so does your business. Power your workday with fast, reliable fiber from OpenServe, built to keep your operations running at full speed. Visit openserve.co.za today to learn more. T's and C's apply.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
All right, as we always do, let's get started with the morning brief in brief, and that is with Melissa Puta, who now joins us. Good morning to you, Melissa. Let's start with developments involving our former Minister of Higher Education, Nobuhle Nkabane. What has happened with her?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. So, former Higher Education Minister Nobuhle Nkabane has been found guilty of breaching Parliament's ethics code after failing to properly oversee the appointment of SETA board chairpersons and allowing her advisor to run the process unchecked. The Ethics Committee also found that she misled Parliament about how the appointments were handled following a complaint by the DA MP Karabo Khakao. Nkabane was already dismissed by President Cyril Ramaphosa amid political pressure from the DA, which has threatened to oppose the budget if she remained in office. She has now been formally reprimanded and instructed to apologize before the National Assembly, bringing to a close a scandal that ultimately ended her tenure in the cabinet.
And DA finances continue to be under the spotlight as we build up to their Congress. This time around, we are gleaning a bit more detail than we had about these top-up payments that are meant to, boost the incomes of their leaders who serve in government.
Yes, so the DA is under growing pressure after a leaked report alleged that several of its senior leaders received additional monthly payments from the party on top of their public salaries. Those names include John Steenhuisen, Ashraf Sarupin, Stelius Brink, and Christopher Papas, with claims the party spends over 300,000 a month on these supplements. Action SA has lodged complaints with the Public Protector and Parliament's Ethics Committee, arguing the payments may violate constitutional rules, barring ministers from outside paid work, and were not properly disclosed. Meanwhile, the EFF has sought answers in Tshwane, where Brink has denied any wrongdoing, insisting his income declarations are fully compliant.
All right, let's turn to this issue coming out of the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture. What's the situation regarding whether or not we'll be paying to send fans to the World Cup?
So a bit of some sad news here for, soccer fans. The Department of Sports, Arts and Culture has clarified that there are no approved plans or funding to send South African fans to the 2026 FIFA World Cup in the United States, Canada and Mexico. It said any proposed fan initiative mentioned earlier by Minister Gayton McKenzie remains conceptual, unfunded, and dependent on private sponsorship. This follows earlier suggestions of competitions to select supporters to attend the tournament after South Africa's qualification for the World Cup. But the department has now confirmed that no budget approvals or procurement processes exist. It added that public funds will not be used and any participation program would only proceed if external funding is secured.
All right, thank you for that. That's Melissa Puta with the Morning Brief in brief.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
All right, let me turn to your weather for this Wednesday. There's actually what they call it, severe weather alert. So I don't know, I'm not familiar with that terminology from the Weather Service. But I think it's the warning. It's the impact-based warning. Maybe they're changing how they refer to it. Severe weather alert. They have one. It's a yellow level 2 warning. And that one is in place over the central and southeastern parts of the Northern Cape, as well as over the northwestern, central and southeastern parts of the Eastern Cape. That yellow level 2 warning is for severe thunderstorms leading to localized damage to infrastructure, settlements, especially informal settlements, property, vehicles, livelihoods, and livestock. So that is the situation. Yellow, level 2 warning. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria, Johannesburg, and Vereeniging will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers. Pretoria starts at a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 27. Johannesburg 17 to 25. Vereeniging 16 to 27. Mbombela will be cloudy in the morning, otherwise partly cloudy with isolated showers and rain, 18 to 27. Polokwane, same conditions, cloudy at first, otherwise partly cloudy with isolated showers and rain, 15 to 28. Mahikeng, cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 16 to 26. Vryburg, cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 17 to 28. Bloemfontein will be cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 16 to 24. Same conditions in Kimberley, cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 18 to 26. Uppington, cloudy with widespread showers and thunder showers, 20 to 31. Cape Town will be cloudy with morning light rain becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon with a minimum of 21 and a maximum of 25. George, partly cloudy, 15 to 25. Gqeberha, partly cloudy, becoming cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 19 to 29. Gqompo City, formerly East London, partly cloudy, becoming cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers from the afternoon, 20 to 30. Durban will be fine, becoming partly cloudy with isolated evening showers and thunder showers, 22 to 28. Richards Bay will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 21 to 29. And lastly, Pietermaritzburg will have morning fog, otherwise partly cloudy with isolated evening showers and thunder showers, 17 to 29.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
24 minutes after 6. What looks at first glance like another flare-up in the Middle East is increasingly revealing itself as a far more complex and perhaps even more dangerous geopolitical standoff, one where competing narratives may be as consequential as the missiles themselves. While Washington signals that some form of diplomacy may be quietly unfolding, Tehran is publicly rejecting that framing, exposing a deep trust deficit that continues to block any meaningful de-escalation. Beneath this diplomatic ambiguity lies a hardening of positions, with Iran demanding not just a ceasefire, but guarantees, compensation, and strategic concessions that the United States and Israel are unlikely to accept. Let's speak to Itumeleng Makgetla, political analyst at the University of Pretoria. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. What have you made of the different narratives that are now at play and their implications for whether or not we may be seeing a de-escalation in that conflict?
Good morning, Mr. Simelane, sir, and I greet also your listeners. I think your question is quite complex because the reports that have come out this week that this conversation was had between the United States government and the Iranian government have been debunked. I've had a pleasure and privilege of having to have a sit down with the deputy ambassador of Iran yesterday, and he refutes the fact that this particular conversation actually did take place. And secondary to that, Iran, according to him, is not very interested in a ceasefire. They want a complete cessation of the assault on them, as he put in his words. So the distortion of information is quite glaring, and let's hope that it will clear much further as the time goes by.
That is an interesting framing, isn't it? The language of a ceasefire being what's popular, especially in media reportage and I suppose in diplomatic circles elsewhere, outside of the parties that are involved. But you're saying Iran is talking more a permanent cessation of hostilities. That will be hard to bring about, won't it? Because the differences at the very least and the subtle conflict dates back many decades.
Indeed. I think you're spot on because with such occurrences in global politics, a quick answer is not very easy to come by, and the hostilities, particularly at the time when, in fact, Iran has lost its supreme leader. At the other side of the debate, we're having Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu and, of course, Mr. Trump as the commander-in-chief of the U.S. forces. It is not looking as though that this is a conflict that's going to just evaporate overnight over a conversation. And I am not a very pessimistic person, but in this case, I think we can probably brace ourselves for a prolonged conflict.
And then what are the geopolitical implications? We've seen what happens when the Strait of Hormuz is, disrupted or closed effectively. And this tends to happen whenever there's this flare-up or the threat thereof has been a common feature in the past. And we've seen what Iran can do, at least as it relates to responding in that way. But the United States and Israel as well coordinating in terms of their attacks on Iran, the sucking in of the wider region, something that until a few weeks ago was only something that was a threat and perhaps something that people feared. We've now lived through it. How has this conflict shaped geopolitics going forward?
Mr. Simelane, sir, I think this is quite a complex situation, because if you look at the alliances that the U.S. has had traditionally, the West altogether, the European Union, NATO allied forces, and all that, they're not quite keen to join in and all that. There's a lot of debate of whether they should, whether they could the US can use their military apparatuses abroad to foster their war and all that in Iran. But also equally, um, we have not really seen um, the marching of the forces from the BRICS country, of which Iran is now part of, and the East and the developing world to march for them in this particular instance to their help. So um, we this is a very precarious situation that, if really is not handled with utmost care, we can expect quite a calamity all over the world, because we know that the economics of oil affect all of us, even though we are so far removed from it. We know that in South Africa, even, for instance, for us, we will be going to the petrol pumps at the end of the month, and we will be paying quite substantially more. The knock-on effect of this is going to affect a lot of people that are quite removed from the conflict itself.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. Itumeleng Makgetla, political analyst at the University of Pretoria. Standing by with the news headlines is N. Musa.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, 12 senior police officers, including generals, are expected to appear in the Pretoria Magistrates Court today in connection with the multi-million rand Medicare 24 SAPS contract. Alleged cartel member Vuzimuzikat Matlala was the company owner. The Matlanga Commission has confirmed it has received correspondence from slain rap star Keenan aka Forbes' father. Tony Forbes expressed his extreme disappointment over the airing of his son's last moments at the Commission last week during the testimony of Organised Crime Unit Police Sergeant Fani Nkosi. And Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana says informed and not short-term responses are required to deal with geopolitical situations like the US-Israel war on Iran. The minister was speaking during the passing of the 2026 fiscal framework and revenue proposals in the National Assembly yesterday. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Geopolitics N3 North under pressure this morning at the roadworks on the N3 going up into Heldenace, so coming out of Germiston heavy. On top of that, there's a breakdown between Heldenace and Van Buren, so extra delays on that N3 North this morning. And then you get the other side of Galulis and you're stuck in really heavy traffic up to both a breakdown and a crash before the Modderfontein road exit. So effectively, Germiston, Alberton up to Van Buren, then Galulis through to Modderfontein, absolutely jam-packed. Some roadworks on Pretoria's N1 South coming through to Sefako Makato if you're coming through from Pumalani Plaza or joining off the N4 Bakwana Highway. Watch for some delays there. Into Durban, the N3 all jammed up at Pinetown. Slow go onto the M13 Paradise Valley sort of on-ramp area. So if you're coming through Pinetown towards Pavilion, there's an unusual delay that's built up there. In Cape Town, it's probably traffic light related again. M7R300, both of those routes queuing up, leaving Mitchell's Plain out towards the Philippi and Samora Rochelle side. And because of the roadworks on the N7 going north at Jakes Curville Drive and Viking Way, that just has an impact on slowing Viking Way down every morning. This time of morning, you come in from Elsie's River in towards Epping on that section of Viking Way, just at the bottom of the casino there, and it all gets heavily backed up, as it is again this morning. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey Zai, good morning to you. So let's start with cricket. Here we go again. It's happening to us again.
Yes,
Yikes.
to us.
Yikes.
This is like, I don't know, man. This is less of a chase and more of a climb up Mount Everest at the
Sure.
moment. A real test for the Proteas women in this match. The Proteas women are under pressure against New Zealand's women's team, chasing 195. South Africa are on 86, and that's for the loss of 8 wickets after, 87 after 15.3 overs. South Africa need 108 runs in 26 balls to win the required run rate, and we can see the wickets tumbling regularly, leaving us with an uphill battle in this final T20 with New Zealand leading the series 3-1. So, yeah, not looking good at the moment. But what is good is the South African women's national under 19 cricket team. They returned to winning ways with a 28-run victory over Zimbabwe at the Patricia Kambarami Cup in Lagos. Ashley Bernard top scored with 40 to guide South Africa to 145 for 7 before Ashley van Beek starred with the ball, taking 3 for 18 to restrict Zimbabwe to 117 for 8. The SA under-19s now sit third on the standings. They'll face Nigeria next as they push for a place in the knockout stages. And just looking ahead, it's all to play for in the men's T20 series decider, with New Zealand's national cricket team taking on the Proteas men national cricket team in Christchurch this morning at around 8:15. The series is locked at 2-all. Let's go to rugby. The Stormers prop Sazi Sandi is poised to make his 50th appearance for the franchise when they face Edinburgh in Cape Town on Saturday night. The 27-year-old tight head says the milestone is special, having earmarked it at the start of the season. Sandi reflected on the influence of his late father, Judge Bonisile Sandi, who encouraged his children to prioritize academics before embracing his son's rugby ambitions. The prop says reaching 50 caps is a moment to honor his father's guidance and to remind himself he's still on the journey they mapped out together. Elsewhere, football supporters in Europe have lodged a formal complaint against FIFA over what it calls excessive ticket prices for the World Cup. Alongside Euro consumers, the group accused football's governing body of abusing its monopoly position in setting costs. And that's your sport for now. We'll be back at the top of the hour for the morning brief. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Ndauling for the first update of the morning. Ndauling, let's start with news to do with oil. This was to be expected, wasn't it? Goldman Sachs upping its oil forecast for 2026.
You're absolutely right, Tulas. We've been hearing so many forecasts coming through as the war over in the Middle East continues to escalate. And this time around, a bank, Goldman Sachs, lifting its 2026 oil price forecast as ongoing disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz tighten global supply and inject fresh volatility into energy markets. Goldman now sees Brent averaging $85 a barrel, up from $77 previously, while US benchmark WTI is seen at $79 a barrel, reflecting the scale of supply losses tied to the conflict in the Gulf region. At the heart of the revision that is the risk that constrained flows through one of the world's most critical oil transit routes could reduce available supply, underscoring how exposed global energy markets remain to geopolitical shocks. Now, that being said, there are tentative signs of easing tensions, with President Trump President Trump has pointed to ongoing engagements with Iran, helping push oil prices lower this morning, with Brent trading around $94 a barrel. Now, this comes despite Tehran maintaining that it is not engaged in direct talks with Washington, further underscoring the uncertainty around the diplomatic outlook.
What's the story between Discovery and this US firm, Cambridge Mobile Telematics?
Yeah.
What's happening there?
So basically, the firm is selling down, Discovery that is selling down a portion of its stake in the US-based telematics company, Cambridge Mobile Telematics, for about 830 million rand. Now, this transaction marks another step in Discovery's gradual monetization of the investment, originally acquired about 10 years ago, while preserving the strategic relationship that underpins its insurance offering. Now, despite the reduced shareholding, Discovery says its partnership with CMT, key to its telematics-driven insurance model, remains intact, with Discovery retaining sufficient rights to continue accounting for the business as an associate. Now, the deal also crystallizes previously accumulated value, further adding a modest disposal gain, although this will be excluded from headline earnings in its next financial year.
All right, lastly, Ntauleng, how did we close yesterday and what tone is being set on this Wednesday morning?
Kicking things off in the US, markets closed lower as uncertainty over the ongoing Middle East conflict weighed on investors' risk appetite, keeping markets on edge. I mean, we even see it in the volatility index, often called the market's fear gauge, which continued to climb, further reflecting heightened unpredictability. Now, that cautious sentiment is mirrored locally, where the JSE has been flip-flopping between gains and losses, but ultimately ended yesterday's session slightly higher, with the all-share up 0.3%. The rand steady this morning, trading just under 17 to the dollar, 22.70 to the pound, and 19.66 to the euro. And then lastly, in Asia, equities rising for a second straight session. This as investor confidence was boosted by Japan, which signaled a move to stabilize energy markets.
All right, Ntauleng, thank you for that. The first update from Ntauleng for the morning. Look out for more insights from her coming through just after 7:30.
Africa Update on SAFM.
And for that, as always, we turn to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Raz, good morning. Let's start in Mozambique. Tell me about this mission of the IMF that's visiting Mozambique. What's that about?
Refreshing morning, Thulas and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Thulas, you'll remember Mozambique has been having crisis post the elections of 2024, and that hidden debt scandal of 2016 that damaged its trust within the international lenders. Now, when you think of IMF, you must know it is all about money, borrowing money. Now, towards April 2026, there will be a meeting between Mozambican government and the IMF to look at the shortcomings in their budget, Thulas, because here it is all about a stable financing of Mozambique. Yes, they were expecting some interest on it. It has been delayed, Thulas, and we know that France, Rwanda has been part of that process. But IMF will be landing in Maputo next month to engage with the government of Mozambique.
And some controversy involving Lincoln University in the United States and the and former President John Dramani Mahama of Ghana. What's that about?
You know, Dramani Mahama, I don't know whether he's dramatic with this visit to us, because now what is happening, remember, Nkrumah was associated with that university. Now, on the eve of him being conferred with this honorary doctorate, there's a bill before the Ghana Parliament on the human sexual rights and family values, often referred to as the anti-gay bills. That's where the issue comes to us. But the government of Ghana and the embassy, they're a bit worried that there were plans. Already the president of Ghana is in the U.S., but now what will happen tomorrow, it will not be able to last based on the views of the government of President John Dramani Mahama on that bill that I've just referred to. So they say they will want to engage further post this visit because of that relation of Ghana and Kwame Nkrumah and the Lincoln University.
Closer to in the Southern African region, actually. Let's go to Zimbabwe. Tell me about Tendai Biti. My goodness, the number of times he's been incarcerated and detained and all of that. It's happening once again.
Thulas, we know that it is all about the Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3, and I saw Hopewell sharing yesterday that the Job Sekala will be having a talk today, also in Joburg, around the same question. But Tendai Biti arrested in the border of Mozambique and Zimbabwe with another activist being accused for holding a public meeting. There's been granted bail this week, Thulas. But what is interesting, you have two processes that have to go, Thulas. Parliament have to do a nationwide public hearings from next week, Monday, until the 2nd. You have the ZANU-PF in Bulawayo doing what they call the door-to-door blitz in terms of selling this idea, Thulas. We have the military generals who are also worried about this Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3. And that's where you find the tensions to us around this. I've seen that Tendai BD's team have been calling for the SADC chairperson, the President Ramaphosa, to intervene. I knew to us it will sit on the SADC agenda again, this issue. But these issues of Constitutional Amendment Bill, let's wait and see these public hearings, whether they will be real or it will be just persuasion or it will be an engagement of the people of Zimbabwe.
All right. Lastly, then, let's get to your historical archive. 2 stories that you want to highlight this morning. One is from the 25th of March, 1939. The other 25th of March, 2020.
Thulas, these are 2 great people that have been close to my journey, and 2 of them, even when I think one of them passed away in 2013, the other one passed away today, but the other one was born, actually, will have been 87. This is a former Chief Justice Pius Nkonzolanga Thulas, who was born in Eastern Transvaal, now Mpumalanga, Bushbuck Ridge. This elder Thulas, if one goes to his archives and his history, was involved in what we call legal activism, being part of the UDF, being part of the Human Rights Committee before the formation of Human Rights Commission, Thulas, being involved in the National Peace Accord process, also chairing the commission probing elections in Lesotho under SADC, and also working on the cases of Zimbabwe, Rwanda, Tanzania. So he has a great history, Thulas, when you think of former Chief Justice Pius Langa. We call Thulas, he's one person who loves reggae, by the way. We met in the Mali screening at the Concord 20 years ago, and I could see him in the midst of people hiding from the masses. The second person, Thulas, 6 years ago, we'll never forget this, Ubaba Isanusi, Vusamazulu, Ipomelelo, Credo Muta, transitioned at Kurumane Hospital at the age of 98, Thulas. You'll recall it was at the height of COVID-19 lockdown when it started, Thulas. You had a challenge, people attending barriers that they have to get this permission. You have to travel, no travel from province to province. And for Credo Muta, the families had to come from KwaZulu-Natal, had to come from Soweto, had to come from Mafikeng to Kurumane. They had to bridge that law, Thulas, that said you can't travel from province to province. Finally, he wrote books like Indaba My Children, 1964, Let Not My Country Die, 1986. And the other one, Thulas, that I think is very important is the story of a strange black woman in South Africa, 2007. 2017 honored the lifetime achievement. And finally, Thulas, myself, Professor Olisorote, Mekos Bimbele, we were tasked to advise the then late president, the late minister Mthatha, on the legacy of Credo Muta, but nobody took it seriously. Thulas, they dropped the ball of honoring the Sanusi. Asante sana, Thulas, as we are still leading the conversation, SFM observing Credo Muta's Day and Pius Nkonzolanga.
Sipho, thank you for that. That's Sipho Mantula there with your Africa update for this morning.
So you thought you were building a business in this economy, but day by day, somehow it grew. You kept going when the freezer didn't freeze, the bucket didn't budge, and the bank balance barely blinked. So you thought you were building a business. You weren't. It was building you. Because this isn't just what you do anymore, it's who you are, and you don't trust just anybody to protect it. Chat to your broker about Old Mutual Insure Business Insurance. Protect what built you. Old Mutual Insure Limited is a licensed FSP and non-life insurer.
What's with the camouflage, Dorf? I'm going hunting. Just me, nature, and my most underrated off-roader, a rental car.
Hunting? You could fit that little car in your backpack, Dorf.
I sit in the driver's seat, baggage at the back, chairs on the roof. The kudu is going to get in and strap its own seatbelt, Savvy.
Could do with more legroom, Dorf. Go hunt for a new 4x4 at WeBuy Cars. They got great deals.
Oh, shot, Savvy.
Don't be doof, be savvy. We buy cars geared for that big trip, geared for you.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very heavy around the Ekka and side of Gauteng this morning. First up, the roadworks on the N3 at Heldene still very much there. Well, the lane restriction, the delineators are out. Not much going on in terms of roadworks, but those restrictions causing big delays from Elands up through to Heldene. And then a crash before Modderfontein Road. So from Giluli's, it all jams up passing Edenvale. And then behind that, there's some very heavy traffic on the N12 and R24 routes as you come in and merge together and want to get through Giluli's and up into that N3 traffic. The Mike 1 from Gold Reef City through Parktowns, Oxford Road's heavy. Way Drive, quite a queue from Bel Air Drive out at North Riding, Malabongwe from that point down through the highway towards Stratham Park. Very slow going this morning. And some roadworks on the M1 South coming through Pretoria, approaching Sefaka Makato. Got some backlogging going on there as well. Durban, a really busy start if you're on your way to the airport. A crash after the gateway exit before Sibaya, so queuing pressure there. A crash at Paradise Valley. Now this backs up the N3 driving inbound, passing Pinetown into that crash at the M13 Paradise Valley, but it also backs you up, unfortunately, on the M13 coming out of Pinetown from St John's Avenue. It's all slow through Stapleton Road and getting into that congested N3 inbound carriageway. Stationary truck stuck on the main road at Belleville Road in the Malvern area. That's why that's all jammed today. And a breakdown between Keyridge and Cliffdale causing delays now out of Durban on your way through to Pietermaritzburg. Cape Town, the N1 inbound fairly heavy from Brackenfell through to Sable Road. Stellenbosch Arterial with some delays out of Kales River across the R300 into the Delft area. And being a Wednesday, Chapman's Peak Drive will be closed today. I believe this might be the last scheduled closure for this sort of run. They're good at advance warning, and there's no warnings going forward. There was a closure last week and a closure this week that were announced. So being Wednesday, Chappies is closed 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. today for some seismic testing works. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
You can become a victim of a legal problem. Wrongful arrest, assault, uncontested divorce, rental disputes, maintenance matters, or labor problems. It can happen to you. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our legal team is standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
For news on South African industry and mining, Creamer Media's Engineering News and Mining Weekly has you covered. Click through to Creamer Media's Engineering News each day for the latest on the people and companies shaping the energy transition and South African industry. Keep your finger on the critical minerals pulse by visiting Creamer Media's Mining Weekly. For deeper insight, subscribe to the Engineering News and Mining Weekly magazine, out on Fridays. Creamer Media, current, credible, comprehensive.
Entlek, Let's Connect is coming to you from the Montreux Jazz Festival in Franschhoek, the first time this iconic festival takes place on African soil. Join Penny Libiane and friend Rico for exclusive interviews, behind the scenes access and the festival experience. Watch on Friday the 27th of March at 4:30 p.m. on SABC2. Entlek, Let's Connect. Be part of the moment. SABC2, you belong.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
8 minutes to 7. The battle over corruption in the country's municipalities is once again colliding with political contestation, this time in the city of Tshwane, where the Democratic Alliance is preparing to place what it terms explosive allegations before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. At the heart of this submission is a claim that what appears to be ordinary procurement dysfunction is in fact something far more organized, networks or mafias allegedly embedded within key service delivery contracts. These allegations spanning water tankers, waste management and security tenders point to systemic alleged manipulation that the DA argues reaches into the political leadership of the African National Congress. I'm joined now by Jackie Ace, who is the DA's Tshwane Chief Whip. Good morning and thank you for your time. So we've been hearing a lot out of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry about procurement irregularities and manipulation, the kinds of conversations that should not have been happening, but were happening and were caught in those WhatsApp messages that were exchanged, and now through the evidence of River Spees. How does what you are submitting to the Commission differ from that and actually go as far as to prove the existence of mafias as opposed to pockets of corruption?
Thank you. During Fanny Nkosi's testimony, he named a company with the name El Shaddai. And when we researched the CIPC records of El Shaddai after he mentioned it, it came out that the registered address of that company is 148 Visvanger Street in Hakdoringboom. That address has been linked to various other companies in the city of Tshwane that does business across waste and water tanker tendering. So we have various companies with this address in waste and water tankers, and the evidence from Van Nkosi then also linked that same address to security companies. Upon further research, it then appeared that El Shaddai was started by a person with the name M.M. Masilela. And M.M. Masilela, in turn, has got various companies with no one other than Eugene Modise. And this links Eugene Modise to waste contracts, water tankering contracts, as well as various security contracts in the city. Now, it is important to understand that you've got one address that is used on various different companies, which means there is a monopolizing inside of those tendering to get access to tender control of the entire contract in various different entities.
So what then elevates it to the level of mafias and networks? I hear the links that you are drawing between what was revealed in the evidence of Van Nkosi and further searches on processes such as CIPC. But I'd like you to say a bit more that says actually this is more organized. It works as a mafia.
Yes, when we visited this address in Visvanger Street in Hakdoringboom, I visited the address myself, and from there you can see that it is very clear that it is not only one service provider from the city that operates from there. What we also submitted is communications from George Machila, who is the Secretary General of the ANC in Tshwane. And George has been doing questions about invoices of companies on the very same water tanker contract. This indicates then in turn that the ANC, at the very least, George Machila himself, have got interest in companies that is not registered under his name. And we are submitting this information to the Mthatha Commission to see if they can use what have been presented to them to plot through what we are presenting to see if there is indeed further assistance that we can offer.
The ANC in Greater Tshwane says this is desperate electioneering stunts by you.
Yes, the ANC has been saying this over the last year, that we have been raising concerns over the Deputy Executive Mayor, where reports have shown that the Deputy Executive Mayor, Eugene Modise, has in fact been benefiting from contracts from the city of Tshwane. And the ANC continue to say that it is desperate electioneering. It is not desperate electioneering. It has been proven that Eugene Modise on at least one company is benefiting from the city of Tshwane. We are now submitting more evidence to the Mthatha Commission that these benefits stretches most probably much further than only one company. So the ANC can claim what they want to claim. We are committed to get this city rid of corruption, rid of fraud. We have opened up fraud cases against Eugene Modise in the past, and we are following up on those SAPS cases, which is at this point been taken over by the Hawks. That is concerning in itself, since General Sabia himself is named in the Mthatha Commission. But this will not stop us, and ANC's claims of desperate electioneering will also not stop us. There's proof that Eugene Modise is in at least one instance benefiting, and we will continue until we get to the bottom of this.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Jackie Ace is DA Tshwane Chief Whip. Of course, natural justice dictates that we should reach out to the Deputy Mayor of the city of Tshwane, Eugene Modise, as well as the ANC, to see if they will come on and respond to these allegations, parallel and separate, in a way linked to what you've been hearing at the Mthatha Commission of Inquiry.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let me take one or two of your voice notes. Someone wants to reflect on the U.S. President, Donald Trump.
Morning, Tulas. Morning, South Africa. The call by Trump for talks is just a smoke screen. He continues to talk peace, but continue to build military, to make military build up in the Persian Gulf for a perceivable ground offense. While at the first time he's looking for an off-ramp, because there are many challenges facing Trump. The World Cup, the midterm elections, and the popularity lack thereof of the war in the United States of America. So he's looking for a way out. Major from Guatemala.
Major, thank you for that. I love your analysis. Maybe we should host you one of these days. I love how you unpack that particular story. Let me take this one about Didi Mabuza and Musiwa Likota.
Good morning, Tulas, and the team Kusho is Tulas. Tulas, I am concerned about the drama that follows this high-profile politician. First, it was former Deputy President Didi Mabuza. Now it's Musiwa Lekota. So the drama that is following them after their death, it shows that they did not put their affairs in order to last. That's concerning for me. Thank you, BK.
BK, thank you for that. And that's always a reminder for all of us, right? Just handle your affairs and basically make sure that you plan for what happens after you pass on. Otherwise, you end up with this situation. 7 a.m., let's go to N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
Thanks to us. In our top stories, 12 senior police officers to appear in court over Medicare tender, and Trump maintains talks with Iran to end the 4-week conflict. Good morning. 12 senior police officers, including generals, are expected to appear in the Pretoria Magistrates Court today in connection with the multi-million rand Medicare 24 SAPS contract. Alleged cartel member Vuzimuzikat Mthatha was the company owner. The NPA's investigating directorate IDAC effected the arrests last night, which included one of the company's directors. Marisa Whitehead reports.
The Medicare 24 tender has taken centre stage at the Mthatha Commission of Inquiry, with allegations that some senior police officers could have benefited from the contract. In June 2024, Mthatha's company was awarded a 360 million rand tender to provide health services to the SAPS. The tender was subsequently cancelled in May 2025 after the company was flagged for procurement irregularities and underperformance. The NPA says the suspects will face charges of corruption, fraud and violation of the Public Finance Management Act.
The Mthatha Commission has confirmed receiving correspondence from slain rap star Keenan aka Forbes' father. Tony Forbes expressed his extreme disappointment over the airing of his son's last moments at the Commission last week during the testimony of Organised Crime Unit Police Sergeant Fanning Nkosi. AKA and his friend Tibelo Tips Tshwane were gunned down outside a Durban restaurant in February of 2023. The Commission spokesperson, Jeremy Michaels, says the Commission will address the matter.
I think it is a pity that we heard about it through the media. That was the first time that I heard about it. And it would have been good to engage privately. So in that same vein, we are not going to engage publicly on this issue. It is a private matter.
City Powers says the first phase of its electric vehicle charging project will focus on installing standard charging stations across Johannesburg. The initial rollout includes over a dozen chargers capable of powering vehicles in under an hour, significantly faster than the older systems. The utility's acting CEO Charles Tshwane says this phase is aimed at testing demand and encouraging more residents to consider electric vehicles. He says the next phase will introduce superchargers, which drastically reduce charging times.
It is what we've tested as a proof of concept. It will work because we have looked at the market, how it was reacting with the old charging systems. The old charging system, they take hours, 4 hours, plug a car. But then we said, let's start with this one as what we had in terms of the budget. And then here we are now. So when we move to the next phase, that will talk about the ones that are between 5 to 10 minutes to charge. These are the superchargers. And we're excited about it.
Finance Minister Godongwana says informed and not short-term responses are required to deal with geopolitical situations like the US-Israel war on Iran. The minister was speaking during the passing of the 2026 fiscal framework and revenue proposals in the National Assembly yesterday. It paves the way for the implementation of a hike in the general fuel levy, which will result in a 9-cent and 8-cent per litre increase in petrol and diesel, respectively, from the 1st of next month. Godongwana says South Africa is not unique to the impact of what is happening in the Middle East.
A similar exercise has happened. We tabled the budget on the 25th, and on the 28th, the Americans and Israel attacked Iran. What is going to be required is an informed response, not short-term responses. Reflect on how other countries have responded to this geopolitical situation.
And finally, US President Donald Trump has insisted that his administration is talking to the right people in Iran and they badly wanted a deal to end the 4-week conflict. Tehran has denied any talks have taken place. The BBC's Bent Debusman has the details.
For the first time, he revealed kind of some of the members of his inner circle that are participating in those negotiations, as well as himself. What he didn't reveal was who he would be speaking to on the Iranian side. And he also said that Iran had given a present worth a lot of money, which he said was related to the Strait of Hormuz, but he didn't offer any further details. That, of course, came as Iran's mission to the UN said that non-hostile vessels would be allowed to transit through the strait. But that still suggests that Iran sees itself as having control over the strait and that any warring parties wouldn't be party to any sort of exemption.
Recapping the top story, 12 senior police officers, including generals, are expected to appear in the Pretoria Magistrates Court today in connection with the multi-million rand Medicare 24 SAPS contract. Alleged cartel member Thulasizwe Simelane was the company owner. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
Without insurance, saving on your car insurance feels like being upgraded to first class on a flight. 35-year-old Becca saves an unbelievable 500 Rand on her 2022 VW T-Cross. Get a quote now, and if Outsurance can't save you money, ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Get savings or cash. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you in your SFM sports headlines. Cricket action, the Proteas women crushed as New Zealand seal a 92-run win to wrap up the T20 series. And in soccer news, Liverpool have confirmed that Mohamed Salah will leave the club at the end of the season. Details around 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Heavy backlogs on Joburg's N3 going north. You've got the roadworks or traffic restrictions at Hell today, so that's a big delay out of Germiston and Alberton this morning up towards Van Buren. And then ahead of that, a collision set up at Edenvale by Modderfontein Road. So the N3 jams heavily from Bedfordview up through Edenvale. Behind that, the N12 and R24 routes on a heavy jam, trying to get into Gillies from the Ekurhuleni side and to sort of merge into that N3 queue running northbound. Pretoria, N1 South, some roadworks heading down towards Sefaka-Makato, slowing things up from the Pumalani Plaza side towards Montana. Durban, very busy with a crash at Paradise Valley. That means the N3 passing Pinetown and the M13 coming out of Pinetown. Both of those highways towards Durban heavy into that Paradise Valley area. Crash blocking your lane on the N2 North before Sibaya on your way to the airport. There's some delays. The breakdown between Key Ridge and Cliffdale. Pietermaritzburg bound being badly affected by that. Cape Town today, the M5 quite slow coming up from Ottery all the way through to Kubo Interchange. N1 inbound from Belleville down to the Kubo Interchange also looking fairly heavy as well. And there is a bit of a delay just if you're on your way to Stellenbosch, the R44 leaving Somerset West, just queuing northbound into that Annandale Road junction. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 7. Good morning and welcome to the second hour of the Morning Brief. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. Let's get straight to our stories because we've got quite a fair amount to cover. So let's tell you about the historical Botha Sigcawu building in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape, which accommodates more than 11 government departments, and it has caught fire. In fact, I'm looking at visuals on SABC News now, still with some smoke coming out of the various floors. It was an 11-story building, the tallest in the town of Mthatha. The building accommodates departments such as health, education, land affairs, and my understanding, even the deeds office was also accommodated within that building. So let's speak now to Olwethu Mabovula, who is the King Sabata Dalindyebo municipality spokesperson. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. So let's just start with what we know at this point. How did the fire start? Do we know anything at this point and the extent of the damage?
Good morning to us and good morning to the listeners of SAFM. Just to correct a few things, the Botha building is not the tallest in Mthatha, but PRD is.
Okay.
With that then being said, we don't know at this moment what actually started the fire. However, we had the reports that there was fire in the building, let's say around 7 p.m. In the evening yesterday. So we obviously rushed there. We can't say at this moment that there will be investigations that are going to start immediately because the firefighters, when we left last night, they were still trying to make sure that they put the fire off. There were no people in the building. In fact, we did not hear of any person that was in the building at that particular time. Some of our firefighters did try to go in. However, there was just too much smoke to even go to any particular floor when the fire was going on. As a result, one of our firefighters is currently in hospital as a result of inhaling the smoke there yesterday. So no injuries, no fatalities as well that we have heard of.
What is the extent of the building, of the fire? It seems, certainly from the visuals I'm seeing on SABC News, to be completely gutted or significantly damaged, such that, it pretty much a big proportion of it has been burnt down.
Nothing is actually left there now to us. Even last night when we left the scene, all floors were gone because around past 10 in the evening, the fire was just going into the lower floors, which is the ground, I think, and also the first and the third floor on one side, but the other side had totally been engulfed in fire. And that building also, just to bring clarity to the listeners, it belongs to the Department of Public Works, so it's not that of the municipality.
In terms of the response, though, the response should be led by the Municipal Emergency Services. I've heard a bit of criticism that says it could have been contained had the response been commensurate with the extent of the fire and the kind of fire you're dealing with. What do you say to that? That your response took time to gather pace and scale?
Remember, to us, the location of the building, where it is in our town, and also where our fire department is. Even if they wanted to put off the first fires, because I think they started on the higher floors, I think in the 6th or 8th floor, but there's just a lot of reports as to in which floor the fire actually started. So even if they wanted to do that, it could not have possibly been contained. Looking at the fact that how that fire was spreading, it was something I've never seen, especially on a building. You would assume that the fire will just build up slowly, but that fire was very fast to spread from one floor to the other floor. It literally took minutes. By the time we had calls around to 7 that the building was on fire, when we got to the scene, because just as an example, from where I say to go to town, it's about 15 minutes. But by the time I got to town, maybe about 6 floors already were on fire. So that's something that also I'm not sure how it happened. At the same time, the first responders obviously were the firefighters from both the local municipality and also the district municipality, who tried their best to put the fire off. And then later on, we were assisted by the Mthatha airport. Another thing is that, yes, we do have personnel to assist in terms of fires, but what we don't have it's enough equipment. Just as an example, we don't have an aerial ladder that could actually go up the floors. And even if a helicopter was brought in, we are told that the helicopters do not fly at night.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Olwethu Mabovula, King Sabatha Dalindyebo Municipality spokesperson, just giving us an update on that fire at Botha building in Mthatha.
Are we ready for a real conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Entlek Let's Connect is coming to you from the Montreux Jazz Festival in Franschhoek, the first time this iconic festival takes place on African soil. Join Penny Libiane and friend Rico for exclusive interviews, behind the scenes access and the festival experience. Watch on Friday, the 27th of March at 4:30 p.m. on SABC2. Entlek Let's Connect. Be part of the moment. SABC2, you belong.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
All right, more than 4 decades after one of apartheid's most notorious killings, the search for the truth and accountability has returned to the courtroom, and it's been playing out for quite some time in the last few months. This time with one of the regime's most feared operatives back then, back on the stand as a witness. Eugene de Kock, once known as Prime Evil, has told the Craddock 4 inquest that while he led operations against anti-apartheid activists, he had no direct role in the 1985 murders of Matthew Goniwe, Fort Kalata, Stelom Mhlauli, and Sparom Konto. His testimony, however, does not close the circle. It opens new questions, particularly with his admission that he became an accessory after the fact, and that coded instruction like eliminate were widely understood to mean killing. Let's hear from Lukhanyo Kalata, the son of Fort Kalata, who's been at the forefront of this quest for justice. Good morning to you, Lukhanyo, and thank you for your time. So this testimony by Eugene de Kock naturally brings the spotlight back onto the public spotlight at the very least, because your spotlight has always been on these issues. It brings it back on the Craddock 4 inquest. But does it answer any questions? Did it answer any questions that you have?
Thulasizwe, good morning, sir. Yes, the testimony of Eugene de Kock on Monday did answer some questions. For instance, and I think you alluded with in your introduction right now, the issue around euphemisms that were used, eliminate, verwyder, take care of, on all of those kinds of things. Those euphemisms were always meant to kill. Always. It was understood ultimately by those that were ordering the instructions, which were the politicians of the time, and it was understood as such by those that were meant to give effect to those instructions. That's crucial because you would remember, Thulasizwe, in the second inquest that was led by Judge Neville Zitzman between 93 and 1994, they spent days just dealing with the issue of what does permanent actually mean. You know what I mean? But in this inquest, we now have not just Eugene de Kock, but someone like Craig Williamson, and an admission by Adrian Flock that was captured on film that removal meant to kill. That's crucial because it does answer that very, very, very crucial question as to what was intended by that military signal.
Yes, in fact, I was going to say a bit more because you link it back to that whole issue of a signal that was sent that talked about permanent removal of these activists.
Yeah. Yes, of course. And for us, that has been crucial because, this was never led in any of the previous two inquiries. So where we are today as the Craddock 4 families, we feel that we are so much closer to the truth because we have now had all of these concessions from Flock, from Williamson, from Eugene de Kock. Yes, there were a bit denials from Joffel van der Westhuizen when he testified last year, as well as Krapis Engelbrecht, who also said, oh, well, he doesn't know what it meant or whatever the case may be. But these three, I think, have been really credible witnesses, and I'm sure that the judge will place a lot of emphasis on their testimonies because they are credible and they're telling this inquiry or this inquest the truth.
Lucanio, when he says he was an accessory after the fact, that means he participated in the cover-up and assisting those who were responsible to get away with it. That would suggest to me that he must have known who those who were responsible for it were.
Yes, of course he was. Look, he had a relationship, for instance, with Saki van Zyl, who really led that operation. He had a relationship with Nicholas Janse van Jansberg, who was part of that. He also had a relationship with Gerardus Lotz. Now, Lotz had testified before the TRC and the Amnesty Committee that he was the one that was ultimately responsible for murdering Matthew Goniwe. Obviously, Eric Taylor admitted to killing my father, but Eugene de Kock had a relationship with 3 of the 6 officers that were ultimately denied amnesty for the murders, of the Craddock 4. And Eugene would have, sorry, Thulas, Eugene would have also understood, and this is something that he was at pains to try to explain to us. He would have understood that a murder like that would not have been, the decision to commit a murder like that would not have been done at local level, right? It would have come directly from the top. Right. And what our lawyers then sought to do was to ask him, but listen, so here P.W. Botha was, Eugene Louis Lagrange here, so he, you know what I mean? And we're trying to paint the picture that no matter what happens, that murder would not have been decided or ordered from local level.
Then, Lucanio, there was a moment, I saw it on video, but I didn't get to listen to the video, the audio of the video. An interaction between yourself and Eugene de Kock. It caught attention simply because of who Eugene de Kock was in the architecture of the apartheid security or insecurity state, and being dubbed prime evil and all of the crimes that we know that he ended up serving time for. And you on the other end of that spectrum, being, a child of one of the victims from that era. Tell me about that moment. What was that about? What were you talking about, and how did it feel?
I said a little bit in the interviews that I did afterwards. Where for me, I wanted to show Eugene de Kock a level of humanity that he never showed some families in South Africa. And at that moment, I went to him and I thanked him for coming to this inquest. and for helping us as the families of the Craddock Four gain a level of truth and a level of closure. But I also understood, of course, who Eugene de Kock was. That even though he was here and he was helping us as the Craddock Four families on Monday, he's also the very same person who was responsible for untold manner of cruelty and pain that he had visited on a number of South African families. So I had to tread that moment very carefully. I also had to, I let him understood that he wasn't a hero, but I thanked him for at least doing the right thing with regards to us as the families of the Craddock Four. That was really what that moment was about.
Powerful. Thank you for that. That's Lukhanyo Kalata, the son of Fort Kalata, one of the Craddock Four.
All right, thank you.
Matthew Koniwe, Fort Kalata, Stelo Mhlauli, and Sparrow Mkondo.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Exciting news, South Africa. SABC TV Licenses has partnered with Capitec to make paying your TV license simple, affordable, and accessible. If you're a Capitec client, sign in to the app and click on Transact. Next, select Pay Bills, then click Pay At and enter your reference number to complete your payment. It's as easy as that. You'll receive instant SMS confirmation. Now you can keep your stories alive and your screens shining bright. TV licenses. Pay yours. Make a difference.
SAFM. Prime time all day long.
25 minutes after 7, a deeply personal legal battle over the estate of the late Musiwa Likota is now raising profound questions about mental capacity, financial control, and ethical responsibility at the end of life. The Gauteng division of the High Court has found that Musiwa Likota was not of sound mind for nearly a year before his death, effectively casting doubt over a series of financial transactions made during that period. At the center of the case is his partner, who the court says failed to adequately explain substantial transfers from his accounts, including withdrawals made shortly before his death. The judgment not only invalidates those transactions, but escalates the matter to professional bodies, suggesting possible misconduct. Let's speak to Zola Mbata, a fiduciary specialist, also an attorney. Good morning and thank you for your time. Just watching from afar and observing all of this, what issues does this judgment and this finding that the late Musiwa Likota was not of sound mind and yet there were all of these transactions that were happening, what issues does it bring to the fore for you?
Morning, Puti. It's lovely to talk to you this morning. So I think the first and foremost would be, of course, the sequence of events. The question here is, was there authority before for these accounts? Did Mr. Likota give his partner access to his accounts? And if you read the judgment, you see that there was a power of attorney that was signed before, authorizing her to have access to his accounts for their living arrangements. And then it then brings the legal issue: when does the power of attorney cease to be valid? And the answer to that is immediately in May 2025, when Mr. Likota's partner was aware that his mental capacity is no longer that of legal status. She then understood, especially as a legal professional, that that power of attorney no longer has power, basically. He no longer has power to give. And so at that point in time, she no longer had authority to access those accounts, and the curator had to be appointed. But that's not what happened. In this instance, the doctor gave the report not to the legal wife, but to the partner, and the partner proceeded to then, withdraw all of these amounts that came up to almost 1.7 million rand. And that is the core of the issue that the court is highlighting. You had the legal knowledge that you no longer have authority, yet you proceeded, and that is highly unethical, borderline criminal.
Sure. And how complex does it make it that he had a wife and it seems they were estranged, but at the same time there was a partner, a romantic partner, and now in winding up the estate, you now have someone else that is appointed to lead that particular process? How complex do their relationships make the legal questions that need to be answered?
Sure. From a legal perspective, legally recognized is a marriage between Mr. Lekota and his spouse. That's why she was able to launch this application and succeed in it inevitably with the core, fundamental protection, value of protection that, in this judgment. But the fact is this. His partnership or his relationship, rather, outside of his marriage does not have any legal recognition. None, not in the South African context. As a result, by law, everything is supposed to be going through his spouse. But also in relation to his funds, if you married incommunicable property, it means you have a joint estate. In other words, everything that's yours, half of it is your spouse, and everything that belongs to your spouse, half of it is yours, which means these funds, half of the value of them belong to Mrs. Lekota. However, while you are living, though, and you have the mental capacity, you're not restricted from spending your money just because you married incommunicable property. You can use and utilize your money in any way you want. The consequence of marriage incommunicable property comes into effect when you pass away or when you are divorcing. So from a spending of money perspective, that was their business until the mental capacity was obviously gone. In relation to the estate, Section 19 of the Estate Administration Act states that the Master of the High Court has the discretion to favor appointing the surviving spouse as executor. I haven't checked to see if an appointment has been made in this estate, but it would be surprising if it's someone outside of the surviving spouse, if there is no last will and testament. And the partner, though, from what I understand from the articles, has a child with the late Mr. Lekota. And as a result, that child has an inheritance claim if the estate is interstate. Should he have done a will specifically excluding that child? That's another case. It's a matter of taking that will to the court. But if there's no will, the child is an interstate heir in this estate. And now with the mother having behaved the way that she did, it's very hard for the family to be holistically inclusive to that child, knowing that your mother tried to steal our inheritance. And in any case, if there isn't a will, that child's inheritance, and that child is a minor, will have to go to the government guardian fund.
All right. Thank you for that. I wish we had more time, but unfortunately completely out of time. I was enjoying the conversation and the insights from Zola Mbatha, fiduciary specialist, also an attorney. Let's go straight to N. Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to Las. In the headlines, 12 senior police officers, including generals, are expected to appear in the Pretoria Magistrates Court today in connection with the multi-million rand Medicare 24 SAPS contract. Alleged cartel member Vuzimuzi Matlala was the company owner. Nearly half of eligible South African voters are not registered ahead of this year's local government elections. This has emerged from the Human Science Research Council's voter participation survey. And France and Canada have condemned plans by Israel to occupy southern Lebanon up to the Litani River, saying Lebanon's sovereignty and territorial integrity must not be violated. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Our top traffic story is a major disruption around Ekurhuleni this morning. Roadworks on the N3 north at Heldon Ace, a crash going north at Modderfontein. Join all that up. It's a big queue coming from Germiston, Alberton, right through Galulies up to the Edenvale Modderfontein exit. Behind that, the N12 and R24 routes in from Ekurhuleni to get into that N3 north jam. Heavily jammed themselves. R24 back to Barbara, N12 back towards Craft Road. Mike 1, Boyson's all the way through to Greystone is pretty heavy today. Crash on the N1 north at Buerta Avenue. That's delaying traffic on the way to Pretoria. Motorists coming out of Pretoria on the big volume side, having a look at that and getting caught as well. Durban out to Pietermaritzburg, heavy from Key Ridge out to Cliffdale. That's a breakdown in the construction. M13 and N3 leaving Pinetown towards Durban under pressure. That's due to a collision scene after they've merged at Paradise Valley, so some real pressure there. N2 North, M7 through Westwood Mall is heavy, and then you've got another queue moving through from Inanda Road up to a breakdown just past Queen Nundy Drive territory. Cape Town not too bad, a little bit lighter this morning. Standouts are really the N1 inbound from Belleville to Kuiper, get a change. N2 inbound from the airport, quite heavy through to Mowbray Main. The rest of the roads around Cape Town fairly standard busy, but no major problems. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Yeah, Zai, it's one of those stories I wish I didn't have to tell, really. The heartbreak coming through from Christchurch.
Yes, Tulas. I mean, I know
Yeah.
we'll go very quickly past this one. Not good news to report. Straight to the archives, the story. It's the one where the Proteas women went down to the New Zealand women team this morning. It was live action. A heavy 92-run defeat, and chasing 195. The Proteas women were bowled out for 102, falling well short as New Zealand dominated from start to finish. So the result sees the White Ferns comfortably securing the T20 series. Well, we've got more cricket to look forward to, and it is the Proteas men who will be in action later this morning. At 8:15 is when the first ball will be bowled, and it's all on the line in Christchurch. South Africa will be looking for a complete performance after inconsistent displays with the bat, while New Zealand are chasing history, aiming for their first multi-game T20 series win over the Proteas. With everything to play for, it's a winner-takes-all showdown because the series is locked at 2-all. So looking forward to that action. And once again, at 8:15, we'll bring you updates here on SAFM. Soccer now, former Bafana forward Sibusiso Zuma believes South Africa must embrace their underdog status ahead of their World Cup opener against Mexico in June, drawn alongside South Korea and a European player winner. Zuma says a fearless approach could unlock the potential of rising stars like Relebohile Mofokeng, Talent Mbata, and Teboho Makwena. Meanwhile, the FIFA World Cup 2026 will take center stage from the 11th of June to the 19th of July. SABC Sport will broadcast the tournament live across SABC3, SABC Plus, and all SABC radio stations. Brought to you by SABC Sport. Now, Liverpool, they've confirmed that Mohamed Salah will leave the club at the end of the season, bringing an end to a remarkable 9-year spell at Anfield. The 33-year-old forward scored 255 goals in 435 appearances after joining from Roma in 2017, becoming one of the Premier League's most prolific attackers. And finally, tennis action, a busy day at the Miami Open with Coco Gauff pushed to 3 sets before booking her place in the WTA semi-finals with a win over Belinda Bencic. On the men's side, Yannick Sinner continuing his dominant run, extending his Masters winning streak, while Francis Tiafoe and Tommy Paul also progressed to the quarterfinals. Meanwhile, Francisco Cerundolo edged past Ugo Humbert to keep his campaign alive in Florida. That's your sport. We'll serve it up some more at the top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Dowling, good morning to you once again. So the conflict in the Middle East could not have come at a worse time for us as South Africa, with all the effort to try and dig ourselves out of this economic abyss we've been in for quite some time.
Yeah, really disheartening, Tulas. I mean, when you look at 2025 GDP up 1.1%, the first time we've achieved growth of over 1% in over a decade. And, that recovery could be stalled, of course, on the back of the impact of the war in the Middle East. And in a Bloomberg article, the CEO of FNB, Harry Callan, warning that rising fuel and food costs linked to the conflict in the Gulf region could stall what had been the country's strongest growth momentum in years. After expanding just over 1% in 2025, there were early signs of improvement supported by easing inflation, stronger investor sentiment, and incremental structural progress. But Callan says that trajectory is now under pressure. A weaker rand, surging oil prices, and volatility across financial markets are expected to feed into higher inflation, squeezing consumers and limiting demand. Now, with a fuel price increase looming, the risk is that growth expectations are revised lower, interrupting what had been a gradual but meaningful turn in the economic cycle. While the lender hasn't adjusted its growth forecast for the year, Callan notes that the hit will be temporary and expects the economy to recover in the medium to long term.
All right. Let me do a bit of editing of myself. Maybe economic abyss is, it's a bit of an exaggeration. Let me say economic hole, okay? Because abyss has these connotations of an endless and a bottomless pit, and just you keep falling and falling, immeasurable chasm. So before I'm taken to the cleaners, let me edit myself. Economic hole that we've been in for quite some time. Let's turn to this now. Tell me about consumer confidence ticking higher at the start of this year.
So according to the latest FNBBR index, confidence among consumers improved to -7 in the first quarter. This was the strongest level since late 2024, and the gains were largely driven by higher income households who benefited from a mix of lower interest rates, a stronger rand, rising equity markets, and withdrawals under the two-part retirement system. But beneath the surface, the picture is more uneven. Confidence among low-income households deteriorated in Q1, weighed down by weak job creation and tighter social grant conditions, further highlighting the growing pressure on more vulnerable consumers. Something to note is that the survey was conducted before the recent escalation in the Middle East. Since then, of course, we've seen rising oil prices and a weaker rand introducing fresh risks, with fuel price hikes likely to squeeze household budgets in the months ahead. And so FNB senior economist Siphamandla Mkhwanazi expects morale to dip moving forward.
How are the markets looking at this hour, Dowling?
Starting in Asia, stocks in positive territory, with the Japanese Nikkei leading the gains, up 3%. This after the finance ministry signaled the government's readiness to intervene across markets as rising oil prices fuel currency concerns. The government's remarks follow a Reuters report that Japan is considering intervening in crude oil futures markets amid the sharp energy price increase driven by the Middle East crisis. Talking oil, crude declining this morning, down 4.5% to about $95 a barrel, as President Trump has pointed to ongoing engagements with Iran, pointing to somewhat of a de-escalation in tensions. Now, that rhetoric also boosting U.S. futures in the green this hour. And then reflecting on local markets, the JSE closing in the green in yesterday's session, with the all share up 0.3%. Onto currency markets, the rand remaining steady this morning, trading at 16.95 to the dollar, 22.69 to the pound, and 19.66 to the euro.
Dowling, thank you for that. We'll touch base one more time with your final update just after 8:30.
SABC2 is bringing the heat. New shows, new faces, and stories that hit home, like the one I'm in called Pimple. And that's where you can catch me, Michelle Masalakai, every Monday to Friday at 9 p.m. Live in every beat, the pulse of SA.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let me start with some of your voice notes. In fact, a few of you talking about the fire at Bota Sikau building in Mthatha and reflecting on it. In fact, someone else among the people reflecting is someone who actually witnessed the fire.
Thulas, yalezo yenu Mthatha. Thulas, I was watching as Sikau was burning down last night. So the fire department is about maybe 500 meters away from Sikau. The firefighters were there, but they are not well equipped. They are just spraying the water standing on the floor. I mean, I think there's supposed to be a winch that lifts up the person who's trying to stop the blaze. So it's an indictment to our municipality, KSD. They are just there as a fire department getting salaries, but when it's time to work.
Yeah, look, Yalezo, that's truly one of the heartbreaking things to witness. And I'll quickly share a story. I covered the Bank of Lisbon building fire in the city of Joburg. What you're describing is exactly how I felt, where you could tell that these firefighters are there. They wish they had the right equipment to reach the certain level that they should reach so that they're able to spray into the building and maybe contain the fire. But when they don't have that equipment and their ladders, the retractable ladders, don't reach as high as they should, it's really heartbreaking. You can only imagine professionals knowing what needs to be done, but not having, apparently I use this word a lot, not having the wherewithal to do it. And in the Bank of Lisbon fire, it was only when the OR Tambo Airport fire service came to join the effort that I started to contrast the equipment, and I could see that, this is what the firefighters needed but didn't have. So I understand fully what you're talking about as far as that effort is concerned.
Good morning, Tulas, and to SAFM listeners. Temingosingoma in Cape Town. Tulas, I can't accept that explanation, man, from the spokesperson of OR Tambo, King Sabata Dalinjabo. No. You can't be telling us the distance between that building and the fire station. We know the distance. It's less than 5 minutes. It's 7 o'clock in the evening. There's nothing. There's no traffic. There's nothing happening. They were not ready. The firefighting services, they failed. And where were the breathing apparatus that are used to go in buildings that contain smoke? Where are the breathing apparatus for us to be told that a firefighter inhales smoke?
Yep.
No.
Yes, and that's the other element, isn't it? Also in Johannesburg, and I'm sorry to keep making that reference. It's my only frame of reference as I resonate with what you're talking about. There was another fire where breathing apparatus became an issue. I think it was the Transnet building fire, where the firefighters were saying that, they would go down and get oxygen and then go up. But by the time they reach the level where they should be fighting the fire, they are running out of oxygen and have to come out again. So I guess the point is, this is what happens when municipalities are not well equipped with the basic services that a municipality should provide. Firefighting capacity, emergency medical services capacity at the local level, complementing and supplementing, of course, everything else being done at a provincial and a national level. I suppose this is part of what the conversation will be going forward.
Good morning, Dr. Thulas. Your guest from Mthatha there just said that they don't have step ladders. So that's it. We're just going to leave it at that they don't have step ladders. The fire department does not have step ladders. They cannot go on high-rising buildings. And we're going to leave it at that. And in that Oscar Mabuyan is all right with that the whole of Mthatha doesn't have step ladders. Yeah.
Morning, Thulasizwe. Morning, SFM listeners. Thulasizwe, we have seen government building catching fire all these years and they burn to the ground. What I would like to say is that, there's a problem in government buildings. There's a lot of paper that is there. Document management is not properly done. And in offices, one office has a lot of files that are stacked there, and that would be the cause of fire. However, the problem is that when these abnormalities or the problems that might lead to fires are reported, or the non-compliance of government buildings is reported to the Labor Department, nothing is done. Labor would drag their feet. Hence, we'll see all these fires continue. Z from Bloemfontein.
Z, thank you for that. That's another important point that you make about the fire suitability of... What's the actual word? It's not suitability, but basically compliance. Yes, fire compliance of the buildings that we are talking about. And I want to read you an excerpt. This was from 2016. So as early as 2016, there were already concerns about Botasigcawu building in the Mthatha CBD. Raphael Chaskalson, the researcher, was doing some work and going into that building, looking for some records and the likes. And part of what the write-up was from Raphael Chaskalson was, and I quote here, "In general, the state of the building is appalling. When I visited, only 1 out of 6 lifts were working. Most of the corridors had no working lights. The stairwell stank of urine and was littered with cigarette butts. In various places, the roof and walls were falling apart. These are hardly optimum conditions for running the regional seat of government, and I can only imagine how these working conditions affect the staff who work in the building." Now, end quote. That's from Raphael Chaskalson, a researcher, writing in 2016. I'm not saying this was the state of the building in 2026. I have no way of knowing that. I had not been inside that building in recent years, so I cannot attest to what the state of the building was. But it does talk to fire compliance, occupational health and safety compliance of many government buildings, which have been an issue, which has been brought to the fore a number of times. You've seen it and you've heard about it. Instances where unions will even say, we refuse for our members to go into that building until something is done about compliance. Traffic update, and then I'll take your calls. Mthatha, Mike and Clifford, I see you. I'll come to you in a moment.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
SAFM traffic with momentum. Just as you plan your route, only 15% of households plan for retirement. Plan yours today. Speak to a Momentum accredited financial advisor for advice that meets your context.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, it's traffic news that you can use. That's what we pride ourselves on here, and you can really use this one this morning. Just avoid Galuli's interchange. Coming in from Ekurhuleni or the airport side, especially bad. A couple of breakdowns, one on the R24 as you merge to the N12, one on the N12 as you get up towards Boeing Road Bridge, just ahead of Galuli's. But primarily, those big backlogs are being held by the severe traffic on the N3 going north. So you've got to crash up by Modderfontein Road a little bit earlier this morning. That's a very heavy queue from Germiston right the way through Galuli's up to Edenvale. That is pushing intently the N12 back as far, or intensely, I should say, the N12 back as far as Jet Park, and the R24 back as far as Barber Road. So you've got some heavy queues there. Then you've got those breakdowns as you get into Galuli's and that big traffic backlog on the N3 to deal with. So just avoid coming in from sort of Boksburg, Benoni or the airport, the run into Galuli's. And if you're going from the south and you want to get up to the airport, that N3 is going to put some serious time on your journey from Germiston, at least up to the airport split at Galuli's as well. Mike 1's pretty heavy today from Boysons all the way through towards Santon Drive, the N1 from 14th Avenue around to Ravonia Road, looking really busy as well. And if you're around Pretoria, there's some heavy traffic again today. There's an incident on the M1 northbound now, just around the Buerta Avenue exit, plus a crash in that area as well. So there's a little bit going on the N1. So you've got a heavy queue from Brockfontein up towards the R21. That's going towards Pretoria. And then on the southbound side, you've got a really big queue coming from Linwood Road, Atterbury Roadside, all the way down through to Buerta Avenue as well. Some very heavy traffic north and south on the M1. Probably a good idea to avoid that, let's say between Atterbury and Brockfontein. Durban, a crash at Paradise Valley interchange earlier this morning. That whacks both the N3 and the M13 moving through Pinetown towards Durban. Both of those highways being caught with that. Breakdown on the N3 at Cliffdale. Very heavy this morning from Shongweni. It's one of those bad trips through that region. All jammed up. Single lane section to work through on your way towards Pietermaritzburg. Cape Town, bit of pressure on the M1 out of town today towards Okavango Road, which is interesting, and the N7 up to the roadworks at Viking Way. Queues all the way back to Langa and the N2 highway. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Momentum is part of Momentum Group Limited, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
They say the early bird catches the worm. Great advice, unless you're the worm. Generic so-called wisdom doesn't work for everyone. So I settle for a financial plan that's one size fits some. Momentum accredited financial advisors take the time to get to really know your unique situation. Advice meets your context. Momentum, your journey to success. Momentum is part of Momentum Group Limited, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let me go straight to your calls. Mthatha in KZN, good morning. My brother.
My brother, good morning.
You're right, my brother. When
I'm fresh. Brother, let me tell you, Do you remember first the preamble of the media charter?
Of the media charter?
Yeah.
My goodness, I do not.
The core of democracy lies the recognition of the rights of all citizens to take part in a society decision-making process.
Mm-hmm.
This requires that individuals are armed with the necessary information.
Yes.
And have access to contesting options to make informed choices. And ignorant society cannot be a democratic society.
Yes.
Democracy cannot emerge and flourish without a democratic media. I'm not going to read everything, my brother.
Yes.
Yes. So, brother, you are playing a very crucial role as a minister, my brother, ensuring that our democracy prevails. So, I would please our politicians, in terms of rights of political rights of reply, politicians need to come and apply.
Yeah.
For example, my brother, I've been requesting the Department of Labor. They are irresponsible.
Mm-hmm.
So many things that happen. For example, the recent the fire.
Yes.
Where were the inspectors to say the building is no longer usable?
Yeah.
So my brother, that department needs to come and account on rate.
Accountability. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, my brother.
No.
Yes.
Thank you for that, Mthatha. Do call again. That's Mthatha in KZN, my brother. Let me go to Mike in Newlands. Mike, good morning to you.
Just wanted to ask, you did an interview with a gentleman early on which caught my attention on Iran. And I just wondered where, I felt we needed a little more context. There were three issues that are outstanding. You'll remember the Iranian ladies football team. They refused to sing the national anthem, and their families were threatened, so they flew back to Iran. Nobody's heard another word from them. And just recently, the Iranian government has just hung a young man called Salem Mohammed. Now, he protested against the Iranian National Guard last week, Thursday, and he is the world champion Iranian wrestling champion, where he won his award in America. Excuse me, when he came back to Iran because of what he said, there was a quick trial. He and two other friends were hung last week on Thursday from a lift truck somewhere in Iran. And we've had 35,000 people, as far as I know, Thulasizwe, you can correct me there, but that's what we understand, have been murdered by the Iranian National Guard. So I just felt that in the interview there, we didn't get any context, because when I was listening to that interview, I thought, oh, this just sounds like a normal, happy country, democratically elected, that's been attacked by the USA. Well, I mean, clearly I don't think that's the case. I hope you'll agree. But if you don't, please let me know. But am I not right to say that we need some context to this? Because Iran just spent its life saying death to America, death to Britain, death to Israel, death to everybody. And it's a very, very violent town with 35,000 deaths to date. And on top of that, a news blackout. So I just thought I'd bring that to your attention, and maybe we could relook at that. Thanks so much.
All right, Mike, thank you for that. That's an important point that you are making there, Mike, about the importance of context to these stories. I suppose, Mike, when the actual story that's playing itself out now, at the moment, with global significance and with the limited time that we have on the radio, it's kind of hard to have all of the context you are suggesting. But I do agree with you that we should dissect the story from various angles, such that next time we're discussing the governance of Iran, and perhaps we have someone who has some understanding of how it works. And I remember we actually did a bit of that during the protests. Were we successful in getting to the bottom of all the issues? Probably not, because, we are far removed from Iran, and you talk about a media blackout, a news blackout, that also weighs into the picture as well. But, when the burning story of the moment is the geopolitical impact of the conflict that's happening there now, it does feel that you need to focus on that story at that very moment. Clifford, good morning to you.
Tulas. Good, Tulas. How are you, my brother?
Yeah, I'm good, man. You?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Talk to me.
Yeah, I want to say something about our fire brigades here. About 2 to 3 months ago, my cousin's house burned to ashes. I mean, burned, nothing left. And then the fire station was about 5-6 kilometers away. Yes, they arrived. But to my surprise, some of the equipment, they didn't have water.
Yeah.
You know what they did? They even joined the community to use buckets to try to bring down the fire. This is how we're going through. I mean, I don't know who to blame. The man who's in charge in the fire station, or blame the guys who were there. You don't know. Actually, they don't have any idea about extinguishing the fire.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what we're going through in South Africa. People are just there to collect salaries every month.
Sure.
But nothing. They are clueless.
It feels to me, Clifford, as if it's one of the many services that we've sort of neglected at various levels, at municipal level, in the focus on the overall dysfunction of many municipalities.
Everywhere to us, I can tell you, from the police services, nursing, it's about collecting salaries, Baba.
So that's the problem. It feels like there's so much
calling.
for us to focus on. Right now, we've been talking about the police service to say, how did these people that we have that are considered generals, major generals, and all of these titles, how did they end up there in that leadership when you then see them and you get their understanding of the world and understanding of reality and telling of the truth and the likes, and you say, how did we end up? But that's just one service out of many services.
Look at them at Mthatha and the commission we are having now. You ask yourself, are we really safe with these people?
Sure. Clifford? All right, let's leave it on that note. That's Clifford in Boroka. They're talking issues of firefighting. It's 8 a.m. Let's go to N Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance Essential is made for older cars. Claims are paid in cash within 5 working days, and you choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43185. That's CAR to 43185.
In our top stories, senior police officers to appear in court over Medicare tender and Tiffany Meek back in court in Jaden Lee murder case. Good morning. 12 senior police officers, including generals, are expected to appear in the Pretoria Magistrates Court today in connection with the multi-million rand Medicare 24 SAPS contract. Alleged cartel member Vuzimuzi Kat Matlala was the company owner. The NPA's investigating directorate effected the arrests last night, which included one of the company's directors. Marisa Whitehead reports.
The Medicare 24 tender has taken centre stage at the Matlanga Commission of Inquiry, with allegations that some senior police officers could have benefited from the contract. In June 2024, Matlala's company was awarded a 360 million rand tender to provide health services to the SAPS. The tender was subsequently cancelled in May 2025 after the company was flagged for procurement irregularities and underperformance. The NPA says the suspects will face charges of corruption, fraud, and violation of the Public Finance Management Act.
Tiffany Meek, who's accused of killing her 11-year-old son, Jaden Lee, is expected to appear in the High Court, sitting at Palm Ridge east of Johannesburg today. The 32-year-old faces several charges, including murder, obstructing the administration of justice, and attempting to defeat the administration of justice. She is reportedly expected to plead guilty to the charges when the case resumes. Rifilwe Mekwa reports.
The charges against Meek stems from the death of her son, Jaden Lee Meek, who was reported missing on May 13th last year. His body was discovered the next morning near a stairway in the complex where he lived with his mother in Vliehof, west of Johannesburg. At the time, the National Prosecuting Authority revealed that the investigations showed that the child returned home from school and was allegedly killed inside the house. It is further alleged that the accused later staged the scene in an attempt to mislead authorities.
Nearly half of eligible South African voters are not registered ahead of this year's local government elections. This has emerged from the Human Sciences Research Council's voter participation survey. The findings have highlighted growing disengagement from electoral politics across the country. The Council's Research Director in Developmental, Capable and Ethical State Division, Ben Roberts, says many citizens feel unheard and disconnected from political leaders.
There's a concern from the public that politicians are undermining democracy. There's a very large gap between the importance attached to politicians listening to citizens and evaluation of politicians' ability to do this. There's also a sense that that people they're not being sufficiently heard and their needs responded to.
Water authorities say the Western Cape tourism town of Knysna will not be heading for day zero at this stage. The Department of Water and Sanitation says augmenting the city's water supply provisions with alternative sources assisted the situation. Knysna's tourism sector was affected at the height of the summer season when it was officially declared a disaster area in late November by provincial authorities. The department's Western Cape head, Ntombizanele Bila Mupiriwa, elaborates.
Sometime in December and January, we were sitting at about 10%, and that's where we were really heading for day zero. The Ackerkloof Dam is currently sitting at about 29%. We don't foresee a day zero at this point in time because the Department of Water and Sanitation, as well as the provincial government, we are in the process of finalizing the project of augmenting the water supply currently by, installing some of the groundwater boreholes in terms of augmenting the dam.
And finally, France and Canada have condemned plans by Israel to occupy southern Lebanon up to the Litani River, saying Lebanon's sovereignty and territorial integrity must not be violated. The French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot stressed the importance of negotiations between the two countries.
Je veux saluer les décisions et les actes des autorités libanaises.
I want to commend the decisions and actions of the Lebanese authorities and the President of the Republic, who proposed high-level dialogue between Lebanese and Israeli authorities to address the ceasefire, the question of Hezbollah's disarmament, but also an end to the state of war between these two countries, which we hope will ultimately allow peaceful coexistence.
Recapping the top story, 12 senior police officers, including generals, are expected to appear in the Pretoria Magistrates Court today in connection with the multi-million rand Medicare 24 SAPS contract. Alleged cartel member Vuzimuzikat Matlala was the company owner. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Theft, accident and 1 million rand third-party cover for your older car. Outsurance Essential has it all. Get a quote. SMS CAR to 43185. That's CAR to 43185.
Like a vinyl record, your car may be older, but it's got character. Now with Outsurance Essential Car Insurance, you could get savings too. 54-year-old Antoinette pays only 279 rand a month for her 2007 Daihatsu Terios, getting covered for full retail value if her car's stolen or hijacked. Get Outsurance Essential Car Insurance today for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rand. SMS CAR to 43185. That's CAR to 43185. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, cricket action. The Proteas are facing a crunch decider in Christchurch, with New Zealand winning the toss and opting to bowl in the 5th and final T20 series, which is locked at 2-all. And we also bring you golf news with Tiger Woods slamming his putter after missing a 4-footer in the TGL finals. All the details at around 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good idea to avoid Galuli's interchange this morning, going north very heavy, coming out of Alberton and Germiston. Big crash up by Modderfontein Road from earlier this morning. Traffic from the Elands interchange up via Bedfordview, Galuli's and into that Edenvale area stays heavily backed up. Behind that, the N12 and R24 routes are solid. N12 coming in from Jet Park, the R24 from Barbara Road. Got some real work to do in from Benoni and Boxburg and from the airport just to get into Galuli's and into that N3 North. Just stay away from all of those options this morning. Get some side roads. You'll probably get through quicker. Mike Oneworth mentioned Boyson through to Santon. A lot of traffic on that run through. And there's an issue on the N1 highway in Centurion between Buerta Avenue and the R21. So that's pretty slow both ways. Southbound with a big volume coming from Atterbury, Garsfontein. Northbound from Brockfontein up through towards the R21. Quite slow as well. Durban, the N3 crash at Paradise Valley. Looks like it's probably being cleared. N3 traffic into Durban easing through that area. The M13 stays busy though as you come out of Pinetown on towards the N3. A breakdown at Queen Nundy Drive, so northbound from Inanda Road's all a bit jammed. And the N3 between Shongweni and Cliffdale heavy around a breakdown and just a single lane open to get through that area this morning. PMB bound traffic are really backed up. Cape Town, Jan Smuts coming out of Athlone on your way to Epping is heavy. The N7 passing Langa to Epping's bad. And if you're on Viking Way, big traffic this morning from Elsie's through towards that construction works on the N7 junction. Viking Way into that Epping area solid. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 8. In fact, it's coming up to 10 minutes after 8. Welcome to it, the third hour of the Morning Brief on SAFM 104 to 107. Also live on all of our digital platforms. That's safm.co.za, but also on the YouTube channel SAFM Radio, also live on Facebook and on X. Coming up in this half hour, we'll focus a bit on a theme that we've covered in the past, the rise in homeschooling, preference for homeschooling, right? In the wake of many pressures that parents face, including school fees, for example. We are told that there's a move where we are seeing homeschooling rapidly moving from the margins to the mainstream. So we'll reflect on what's driving all of that with Lebogang Monjane, Executive Director of the Independent Schools Association of South Africa. That's coming up in the next few minutes. But as always, before we get to that conversation, let me take some time and take in some of the comments that you've been sending through on the WhatsApp line 0614 104 107. A lot of you have been talking about the firefighting capacity in your locality, your municipality where you live, what you've observed, as well as the state of buildings, particularly government buildings, in relation to their compliance with occupational health and safety, as well as compliance with what they call in the United States fire code, just the safety elements that have to do with how quickly a fire can spread. So Lookman in Cape Town says, correction, Cape Town Fire Brigades tops. Everything is working. That is from Lookman in Cape Town. And then someone else says, well-equipped is not the word here. I choose to say they refuse to equip the fire department. Simple as that. It's Vusi from DR who says, we rely on the army if a fire breaks out around here. So a situation and a reflection from the town of DR. Lack of equipment renders an emergency to be catastrophic. Lack of training, says someone else there. And then a few people reflecting on our conversation with Olwetu Mabovula from the King Sabata Dalindyebo municipality. And some of what came out of that. TG, for example, says, so this spokesperson is denying that the KSD municipality is not the responsible organization to fight fires. And does this mean that the municipality can't fight fires? And where do you get such people, Thulasizwe? And she is disputing the fact that we are talking about a former government building and a historical building, and to say that it is owned by Department of Public Works is regrettable, as these are government buildings. And now many employees are not going to work for the rest of the year, and government equipment and property has been destroyed, and you get such, I'm not going to use that word, you and I agree that we don't do that. We don't call people names or anything like. Disagree with her as strongly as you've done. I think I'll stop at that point, TG. Look, just a few points of correction. I don't think she denied that it is a government building. She just said that it's not a municipal building. It is a building owned by the Department of Public Works. I understand why you would take issue with her making that distinction. Does it matter? The responsibility falls on you as the provider of emergency medical services, emergency services in the locality. Whoever owns the building, really, I also didn't understand the need to make that distinction. No one was pointing a finger at the municipality in any way, unless it was from a different context. So I get that distinction that you're talking about. And I don't recall hearing her disputing that it's a historical building. Other than that, the point you are making is well taken. Then someone else says, in Cape Town, and it's Bungane in the Eastern Cape, in Cape Town, Parliament caught fire and a quote-unquote para from the street was accused. In Joburg CBD, Marshalltown, some quote-unquote para confessed to have started fire to conceal his crimes, with 77 fatalities. Reports say fire started in 4th and 8th floor, Botasigau in Mthatha. It can't be some quote-unquote para who started the fire, says Bungane in the Eastern Cape. Then I want to read one or two that have nothing to do with the Botasigau building fire. Someone says, so predictable of Mike from Newlands. Is America saving Iranians from the dictator by bombing a school and killing girls? I challenge Mike to show us an example of a country that was attacked by America, effected regime change, and people are doing better. I'll watch on the radio, says that person with a smiley face emoji that is shared there to that last comment. And lastly, someone else then says, I'm not a Trump fan, but I agree with Mike that people don't seem to get the whole story about the situation in Iran. Please, yes, more depth, please. I have an Iranian friend living in South Africa, lived her whole life in Iran under a very oppressive regime. She doesn't know if she will ever see her family again. What is South Africa's friendship with Iran really about? Asks that person. All right, I'll read a bit more. I do see that one about Eugene de Kock. That is from, in fact, let me get to it and just wrap it up. From Nati in Cape Town, who says, I just wanted to comment on Eugene de Kock matter. He was just a tool. He took the blame for everything, and the generals are still out here, are still out there, while others died in the comfort of their homes. For me personally, I believe we need to forgive Eugene de Kock and Dirk Coetzee. Our focus should be why Jay-Z, that's Jacob Zuma, and TM, Thabo Mbeki, are against the commission. Does it have something with what happened during those times in the ANC? Asks Nati from Cape Town. The official reason, of course, Nati, why there's this, what applications being made by the former presidents is that the chairperson of the TRC Cases Commission had served in some other capacity under the, I think in the NPA, and also during the time of the TRC itself. So I think that's the official reason. But I get the sense that you're not asking about the official reason. So I'll leave it there for you to make up your own mind about what you believe is at play. The number to dial 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes 0614 104 107. Let's get into it, the third hour of the Wednesday edition of the Morning Brief.
It's a new day, new deadlines. You're gonna do your best. You're only human.
Thank you for your patience.
So why, when contacting your business's current provider, an automated voice adds you to an imaginary queue, like you're just another number?
Your caller number 17.
Not exactly humane, is it? Don't let bad tech choices get in the way. Switch to a dedicated human specialist, because nothing should stop your business. Call 084 1234. Cell C.
Hey, want to check your TV license balance conveniently? Look no further. Our SMS service allows you to do just that. By sending a message containing your ID or TV license number to 44210, you can quickly access your balance without needing multiple inquiries or waiting on hold. Plus, standard SMS rates apply. Take advantage of this efficient method to stay informed and streamline your payment process today. T's and C's apply.
Think fast. Fast downloads, fast streaming, fast wins. Because whether you are chasing high scores, chasing deadlines, or chasing the next episode, buffering is not part of the plan. That's why your home needs the power of OpenServe Fiber. Fast, reliable Wi-Fi that keeps up with your life. Game harder, work smarter, stream without limits. And right now, when you sign up before the end of April, you'll score a free Netflix voucher. So don't wait. Level up your home connection with OpenServe Fiber and feel the difference speed makes. Visit openserve.co.za today. T's and C's apply.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
19 minutes after 8. For many South African families, the choice between public and private schooling is increasingly being replaced by a third option, opting out altogether, as private school fees climb to as much as 350,000 rand a year and public schools struggle with overcrowding and resource constraints. Homeschooling is rapidly moving from the margins into the mainstream. What began as a pandemic-era necessity seems to have evolved into a long-term alternative, with hundreds of thousands of learners now educated outside traditional classrooms. Let's pick up the conversation with Lebogang Montjane, who is Executive Director at the Independent Schools Association of South Africa. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. So I suppose you come at it from one of the three strands, right, of education, being private, public, and now the third increasing strand of homeschooling. Just your overall take of the balance that we strike between the three and the choices we make and what informs those choices.
Good morning to Thulasizwe and to your listeners. Thank you very much for the interview. I think it is important that we must focus on the fact that there really is often a distinction between independent and public schools, as if they're distinct, especially in terms of cost. But I think that we must remember that there are independent schools that charge fees that are lower than some public schools. But I think that homeschooling is often a decision that is decided by parents or the needs of the child, specifically if they're feeling that their child, that they, the parents, are able to deliver an education. But it really is fundamentally important that children should be homeschooled by parents who are knowledgeable about education and are going to ensure that their children reach the required outcomes as set out in the South African school in terms of the South African curriculum requirements.
How easy is that terrain to navigate, to understand the requirements of the curriculum and ensuring that the education that the child will be getting, even when they are in homeschooling, is commensurate with the requirements of the economy and everything else that they will have to encounter when they are done with schooling?
Yes. So what has happened is that the National Department of Education has actually set guidelines specifically for homeschoolers. And then also part of those guidelines is that the children must be registered with the Provincial Department of Education. But also the point is that the parents must familiarize themselves with CAPS, the curriculum statement in South Africa that determines what the outcomes are and the standard that must be reached in order for a child to be able to be a fully realized and functional adult. And I think that really is one of the things that was always concerning in education, that children are then, having been in homeschooling, it doesn't limit your options when you become an adult. Interestingly enough, in the United States, as you're interesting, where homeschooling began, many children who are homeschooled are actually sending their children to school because they realized that they did not have the types of opportunities that they would have liked as children. So it really is important that homeschooling should not only be about curriculum, they also must see if these children have opportunities to do co-curricular activities such as sports, art activities, so that they are really also interacting with other children and peers.
What's the evolving conversation, Lebogang, about how these three streams of education, and I use it loosely to say three streams, how they interact and intersect and perhaps complement one another? For example, your sector, the independent schools, and how they can, in a way, complement and support those parents who go into homeschooling. Is that conversation happening?
It actually is, and I think that's a great question. So often what people say is that I'm homeschooling my child, but effectively often what they're actually saying is that their children are doing online schooling. And there are providers that provide what they say time, like they run schools online the way that you would be at school, but the children are interacting on the computer, or the children are doing self-study. So actually the independent sector is also is providing services to families that are wanting to do schooling for their child within their homes. So actually there is that kind of synchronization. So, and also what happens is that homeschoolers also go to what they call tutor centers, where they go and get augmented learning, where they're helped with different areas of what they may be, where they may be having difficulties. The difficulty we're having at the moment, Thulasizwe, is that the South African Schools Act only recognizes two types of schools: public and independent schools. So it still has to be updated to deal with homeschooling. And specifically for us in independent schools, what we're asking the Department of Education to do very quickly is to also amend the South African Schools Act to actually permit online schools. Because as you indicated earlier, during COVID, people studied at home, and then some people have never gone back to school, and the online provisioning is now a reality in our country. But it is important that we know where children are and that they are getting an education so that when they become adults, they can realize their hopes and aspirations.
Mm. So lastly then, while you're talking about online schooling, it was something of a novelty a couple of years ago. And I remember hearing the UCT online school adverts on the radio at the time, and it was still relatively new. What's the emerging evidence of how that system is performing against the policies, the various curriculum policies, the quality of education, as well as the outcomes at the end? And I suppose staying power for those who sign up. Are we seeing parents signing up and then they stay through until the child is done and out of the schooling system? Or what's the emerging evidence?
The emerging evidence is actually it replicates the picture of education in our country, Thulasizwe. There are some very good public schools, and there are some public schools that certainly need improvement, and there are certainly good independent schools, and there are some independent schools that are even worse than even the worst public school. So it really is, we're seeing that also the quality is variable in online schooling. It really is important for parents to do their homework, ask around, and see what happens to the graduates of those schools, of the platforms that they choose. My deep concern often is that some parents say, okay, my child is homeschooled, is online schooling, so they all is well. Then they realize at the end of the week, end of the year, the children did not cover the full curriculum of whatever grade the child is. And then when they try to come into our independent schools, our schools, actually the child often has to repeat because they have not covered what has to happen. So it really is important that you have a provider that keeps the parents aware that the children are doing the homework, are actually doing the assignments, and they're also giving feedback on how well their children are doing on a consistent level. So it really is important that we do two things. Let's get these schools regulated so that we can make sure that we are ensuring that parents know that, okay, this school is registered, therefore they're meeting the minimum requirements. But now at the moment, because it's not that these platforms are not registered, it's creating a lot of difficulties for families to know whether they are registering their children at a quality school.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you for your insights. That's Lebogang Monjane, who is Executive Director of the Independent Schools Association of South Africa.
In life's most challenging moments of loss, compassion can be your greatest comfort. You shouldn't have to face the financial burden of losing a loved one by yourself. Rest assured, Clientele's funeral plans pay out cash within 24 hours. You can cover up to 13 family members on one plan, ensuring all your loved ones are taken care of, and 3 children are covered at no additional cost. With Clientele, you are not just buying a plan, you are also buying peace of mind. When the time comes, you will need to make important calls with your 200 Rand airtime you will receive when you claim. Plans offer double accidental death cover as well as a transport, grocery and unveiling benefit. Apply today, it's easy. There are no medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Brilliantly taken! Last year, the Proteas women were runners-up in the final of the ICC ODI World Cup against India in front of 1 billion cheering Indian fans.
The new champions of the world, India.
Now Laura and her team take them on home ground with your unwavering support behind them. Watch this unmissable T20 International Series versus India live this April with 2 games in Durban, 2 in Joburg, and 1 in Benoni. Let's get behind the Proteas. Tickets are selling fast. Book today at cricket.co.za. Dare to be unbreakable.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, the MK party will approach the Pretoria High Court on an urgent basis to block what it calls the unlawful release of former National Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Shamila Batoye's pension funds and other benefits. 12 senior police officers, including generals, are expected to appear in the Pretoria Magistrates Court today in connection with the multi-million rand Medicare 24 SAPS contract. Alleged cartel member Vulemuzikat Matlala was the company owner. And Tiffany Meek, who's accused of killing her 11-year-old son, Jaden Lee, is expected to appear in the High Court sitting at Palm Ridge, east of Johannesburg today. The 32-year-old faces several charges, including murder, obstructing the administration of justice, and attempting to defeat the administration of justice. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still worth avoiding Galuli's interchange. Grenadier side of Joburg crashed this morning on the N3 North at Modderfontaine's. Got everything backed up. So you got a really heavy delay from Germiston through Galuli's up into Edenvale. And then behind that, the N12 and R24s are under real pressure getting through in towards Galuli's to connect into that N3. Plus, there is a crash after the N12 and R24 emerged near the Boeing Road Bridge. If you're in from the airport or you're coming in from Boksburg and Benoni, seriously consider some side roads and alternative route action to avoid Galuli's. And if you're heading north out of Germiston, Alberton, you might want to try to find some alternative routes rather than sit on that N3. It really is quite bad. The Mike 1 under pressure from Boyson's up into Crown interchange area this morning. The situation on the N1 in Pretoria, crash going north after Boerta Avenue, so it's a bit of a slowdown on your way to Pretoria, but onlookers coming south having a look at that, causing a slowdown from the R21. Durban out to Pietermaritzburg, dreadful today. Stationary truck before Cliffdale, one lane open, big queues all the way back to Shongweni territory. Breakdown on the N2 north before Gateway, that's a queue back as far as Komashu Highway, and some pressure on the M4 coming into Durban. Just expect to be asked to queue this morning, approaching Argyle, Sandili, Tusi on your way in towards the city centre. That's the Route First Highway. Cape Town, Jan Smuts out of Athlone to Epping is a heavy queue, and still plenty of traffic on the M1 this morning from Plattekloof Hill, jammed all the way to Kuburg interchange with a breakdown just before the interchange. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning to you. So let's talk about live cricket action. All to play for the Proteas men, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of cricket this morning, Thulas. We're going into the second match for this morning, all to play for. An early breakthrough, by the way, for New Zealand after being sent into bat. The Proteas men are now on 21 for the loss of one wicket. Tony de Zorzi dismissed as Vian Mulder remains at the crease looking to steady things in this series decider. And earlier we had the women's cricket team in action. They suffered a heavy 92-run defeat to New Zealand women's national cricket team in Christchurch. Chasing 195, the Proteas women bowled out for 102, falling short as New Zealand dominated from start to finish. The result sees the White Ferns comfortably securing the T20 series. More cricket. The South African women's national under-19 cricket team returned to winning ways with a 28-run victory over Zimbabwe, and that's at the Patricia Kambarami Cup taking place in Lagos. The SA Under-19s, they sit third on the standings. They'll face Nigeria next as they push for a place in the knockout stages. Tennis, a busy day at the Miami Open as well. Coco Gauff pushed to 3 sets before booking her place in the WTA semi-finals with a win over Belinda Bencic. On the men's side, Yannick Sinner continuing his dominant run, extending his Masters winning streak, while Francis Tiafoe and Tommy Paul also progressed to the quarterfinals. Meanwhile, Francisco Cerundolo edging past Ugo Humbert to keep his campaign alive in Florida. Golf, Tiger Woods, he's returned to competitive action, ending in disappointment as his Jupiter Links team lost the TGL final 9-2 to Los Angeles Golf Club. The 15-time major winner, playing for the first time in over a year, admitted his body is still struggling to recover from recent injuries, casting doubt over his participation in next month's Masters at Augusta. And finally, women's golf, the rising star, Gabrielle Fenter, is targeting back-to-back success at the ABSA Ladies Invitational at Royal Johannesburg. Fresh off her Platinum Ladies Open win, the 21-year-old says her familiarity with the course gives her confidence heading into a strong field. The event also plays a key role in the race for the Sunshine Ladies Tour Honours. That's your sport. You can swing back to SAFM around 12:30 for more sport with John Herika. I'm Zai Khan.
The business update on SAFM.
Darling, good morning to you. So this story about citrus order and the recall that has been issued, a lot of people will be concerned about that. Dowling will be telling us about Adcock Ingram recalling. Dowling, good morning. So a lot of people will be concerned about this recall of citrus order, yeah?
Yes, that's right, Thulas. And former JSE-listed farmer player Adcock Ingram has moved to contain the fallout from a recall of select citrus soda batches, emphasizing that the issue is isolated and poses no confirmed risk to patients. Now, the recall initiated by SAFRA follows findings of manufacturing deficiencies at the company's Clayville plant, including concerns around equipment conditions and cleaning standards. To address this, Adcock has paused production at the affected facility and is working with the regulator to address the issues while ramping up output from its Indian plant to ensure continued supply. Now, the recall is classified as Class 2, meaning any potential health risk is considered temporary rather than life-threatening. And importantly, no adverse effects have been reported to date.
And to this now, Ndauling, because I'm a good student, you see, I listen when you speak. I know exactly who Gemfields are. They are linked to Goldfields. They are the other arm. Goldfields, they are the other arm, right? Gemfields.
No,
what? No, did I just fail a test on radio?
Oh, you disappointed me. Oh.
Okay, moving right along.
It's all in the name, gemstone.
Yes,
So
I know,
they're
but I
manner of
thought
gems.
they're an offshoot of Goldfields and therefore gem fields, and then you will have something else fields, and then AI fields, chip fields. No, okay,
Moving
I failed.
right along.
Yeah, let's gloss over it now. Yeah, that's proper glossing over an issue.
Yes, the miner now, Thulas, is sharpening its focus on balance sheet strength as geopolitical tensions in the Middle East add a fresh layer of risk to an already pressured operating environment. Now, CEO Tshwane Gilberston has flagged uncertainty around fuel costs as conflict involving Iran threatens to disrupt global energy markets, an important consideration for business heavily reliant on diesel at its African mining operations. Now, the warning comes at a vulnerable time for the group, which has faced operational disruptions in both Mozambique and Zambia. Now, weighing on production and cash flow. In response, the miner has taken steps to shore up its finances, including a rights issue and the disposal of luxury brand Fabergé. While losses are expected to narrow in the latest financial year, management has made it clear that deleveraging and cost discipline remains the immediate priority.
Okay. Wrap it up for me then, please, and give us a sense of where we are going in the markets today.
So local markets are likely to kick things off in the green following global markets to last this after President Trump's comments on the war, which somewhat pointed to a potential de-escalation in tensions. However, that not fully filtering through to currencies, with the rand movements still choppy. It's trading at 16.97 to the dollar, 22.71 to the pound, and at 19.67 to the euro. Meanwhile, crude easing on those comments by Trump, despite Iran saying there's been no formal engagements between Tehran and Washington. Oil down 3% to just under $97 a barrel. And then back to equities, markets in the green over in Asia as the Japanese government promises to intervene and regulate energy prices, or rather the planning to address the fuel concerns on that front. And then moving over to the US markets, futures also in positive territory.
All right, Ndauling, thank you for today. Let's talk again tomorrow. Ndauling Lechela, having kept you updated on business, economics, and the markets.
Bafana Bafana are preparing for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. which will be hosted by the United States of America, Canada, and Mexico from 11 June to 19 July 2026. Bafana Bafana will host 2 international friendlies against Panama on Friday, 27 March in Durban at the Moses Mabhida Stadium at 7 p.m. and Tuesday, 31 March in Cape Town at the DHL Stadium at 7:30 p.m. Tickets are available at Ticket Pro at 80 Rand for adults and 50 Rand for children under 12. For more details, visit safa.net and Bafana Bafana on X.
You could win a car. You could win a car. Everyone could win a car.
Spar Win a Car is back. Stand a chance to win one of 50 Hyundai Extras when you buy participating products like 1.8-litre Ola Rich and Creamy Ice Cream. Buy any 2 for 110, save 40 Rand. Or 1-litre Danone Ultramel Custard. Buy any 2 for 50, save 20 Rand. Price is valid from 23 March till 7 April. Shop, swipe, and win while stocks last. Only at Spar. T's and C's apply.
Oh, I'm so tired.
There's nothing on the TV.
Fanas, girls, let's take a break. We are going to A1 Lake.
Take a break with us. Get your One Day Cup domestic cricket 50 over game ticket at www.cricket.co.za. Wazana where it's family time.
Is there ever a bad time for a good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
All right, let's turn to this now. As war once again rattles the Middle East, the immediate focus may be on missiles and diplomacy, but the deeper story, we are told, lies in how quickly global energy systems begin to shake. For countries like ours, heavily reliant on imported fossil fuels, these geopolitical shocks translate almost instantly into rising fuel prices, higher transport costs, and growing pressure on already strained households. Yet, as some call for expanded oil and gas infrastructure, others warn that this response risks locking the country into long-term instability rather than solving it. Let's get a perspective then from Lazola Kati, who's Fossil Ed Ban campaign manager at Fossil Free South Africa. Lazola, good morning and thank you for your time. I can only imagine how you are viewing as an organization the events developing in the Middle East. Give me your take. How should countries like South Africa be responding to the events that are sending shockwaves throughout the energy value chain globally?
Thank you so much for having me, Thulasizwe. So the first thing is that as an organization, our worry is that firstly, we are backtracking on the just energy transition. The call has been for intensive increase in oil and gas exploration and projects and permits being handed out. So that's the first concern. The second concern is that we're locking ourselves into an energy system which is a volatile. We're basically putting our economy dependent on fossil fuels, which has consistently brought a lot of conflict to a lot of countries over the age. This is not new. So we are basically pushing ourselves further into the middle of this conflict, and that is the biggest concern. And because South Africans are feeling the brunt immediately, particularly because we import all of these fossil fuels that we already have as raw materials in the country. So we're going to feel it immediately.
What is the alternative, though, given the crisis that we face and the realities we face at the moment, economies that are fueled by such products as oil and gas?
The truth of the matter is globally, there's a push for less investment into fossil fuel intensive economies. So the alternative for South Africa would be to intensify the just energy transition. It's to move into hydrogen power, green hydrogen power. It is to move into renewable energy investments. We already have a program that was put together by the government around 2011 that is actually pushing renewable energy procurement, that program. That is what we should be focusing on, batteries, and we should be focusing on skills exchange. This is the time for us, this is the gap that we have to actually move away, because there's a human security risk for us. There's also a human security gap for us to actually divest away. Already in South Africa, we have leased out over 95% of our coastal areas for fossil fuel and specifically gas exploration. That is already not ruining just the environment, but biodiversity and human economies that live around the coastal area. So this is our gap. The problem is that there is a lack of political will, and that it is not that there's not enough money, there's not enough investment. It is a lack of political will and the idea that development lies in fossil fuel projects and further fossil fuel expansion.
Is it a binary choice, though, for you as an organization, Lazola? Is it either or? Is it either we go down the path of fossil fuels or we go down the path of renewables and hydrogen and the likes? Or is there room for a conversation such as the one that I've been hearing more and more from the South African government and other actors in the space that says we need a balance? We need more of the renewables and green energy, but at the same time, you can't completely do away with fossil-based fuels.
The truth of the matter is currently the African continent is heating up faster than the North, right? That's the first point. The second point is that South Africa is already at a point where we will not be meeting our global climate agreements with the Paris Climate Agreement. We're not going to meet to that 1.5 Celsius degree decrease. So the truth of the matter is, in terms of lives, human security, it is an either or. And South Africa can actually move faster away. It is the real issue here, Thulasizwe, is the political. It's what I'm highlighting. The idea that South African government still believes that development and the economic stability lies in fossil fuel expansion. That is our problem. It is not an actual fact. There are more jobs in renewable energy markets. We've gotten multiple loans from countries such as France and Germany to move away from fossil fuel expansions, but we've done the opposite. What we're doing is that we're securing loan after loan after loan, including IMF, whilst not moving away from fossil fuel expansion. And that's what's heavy on our economy, paying back those loans when we are not actually moving away from fossil fuel expansion. If we were to properly use those loans and the money that we have in our country and the different programs that we have, we could actually move away without having to stay in this binary moment. Because the problem with the binary moment, Thulasizwe, is that we're passing permits and contracts that are 20 to 50 years long. And that's not a moment, which is what the government has told us, is that we are transitioning, we're using gas as a transitional fuel. Transition is a short-term period, but the contracts and permits that we are handing out are long-term.
So what would accepting, Lazola, that while you are in the middle of a crisis, it's often difficult to think about long-term solutions. You can think about them, but you are locked in that moment. What does a response that takes the pivot you are calling for into account to the current crisis, what does that response look like?
The response is, unfortunately, again, we're making our government into an infant. This government started the just energy transition way back in 2011. The conversation to the public came very recently. So the critique is that there should have been preparation, because there's been a brewing war when it comes to fossil fuels for a very long time. But currently, we can't say that the government is in the middle of a crisis and they should act quick and think quick. We should have been prepared. That's what a government does. But currently what we should be doing is taking the same stance that I've seen at least Cyril Ramaphosa take, where he's not getting further involved in the war, right? But what we are pushing for is something that he has not said, but should be saying as the government, is that we are continuing with the just energy transition. We're not going to intensify. There is the right response for the future of this country is the opposite of what we're currently doing, where we're saying we should push forward with oil and gas so we can supply and further build an economy, or rather strengthen this economy around an already volatile energy system. That's what we should be doing, the complete opposite. And it's not that there's an absence of those expertise or those points, but again, it is the lack of political will and the continuous chasing of energy dependency and a fossil fuel intensive economy that we're doing as a country.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. That's Lazola Kati, who is Fossil Ed Ban Campaign Manager at Fossil Free South Africa.
SAFM guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still very slow around that Ekurhuleni area this morning. Crash scenes on the N3 North at Modderfontein Road and on the N12 and R24 after they've merged going into Kaluli. So the N3 North heavy from Cement Factory right through to Edenvale. R24 backing to Barber Road. N12 backing through almost to Jet Park. So really extreme delays there. You might want to try some side and local routes to get through the worst of that. Crash scene coming into Santon on Bryanston Drive, just out by Green Street. So leaving Bryanston, quite a bit of pressure on that run through this morning. M2 very slow from Joe Slovo getting across into the Crown Interchange, and some slow-moving traffic on the M1 North getting through Buccleuch on your way up towards Allendale Road. Roadworks on the R21 North at Clayville. It's causing quite a heavy delay still at this hour. Traffic backing up passing Tembisa on your way towards Pretoria into that sinkhole lane restriction section. Durban to Pietermaritzburg remains really heavy today. It's one of those bad mornings where you shit from Shongweni all the way through towards Cliffdale. It's a broken down truck, been there all morning in the roadworks just before Cliffdale. One lane open, massive backlogs all the way through to Shongweni. If you know that old road up through Hillcrest, Boaters Hill, in Chunga, come back on at Cato Ridge. You'll do well to take that one, to be on that route. Cape Town, no traffic lights, R300 at the M7, so still on that R300 exiting the Mitchell's Plain area. And Cape Town noticeably, and I think for the rest of the country, so a little bit lighter volumes today, which is interesting. Perhaps the heaviest highways there, the N1 inbound from around N1 City to the city centre area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
30-year-old Dineo knows all about saving on her car insurance with Outsurance.
I'm saving 1,094 rands.
That's an unbelievable 1,094 rand monthly saving on Dineo's 2025 Kia Sonet. And she'll get an out bonus.
If I'm claim-free for 3 years, then I get an out bonus back.
Ready to see how much money Outsurance could save you? SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Licensed insurer in FSP. TCs and information online.
Exciting news, South Africa. SABC TV Licenses has partnered with Capitec to make paying your TV license simple, affordable and accessible. If you're a Capitec client, sign in to the app and click on Transact. Next, select Pay Bills, then click Pay At and enter your reference number to complete your payment. It's as easy as that. You'll receive instant SMS confirmation. Now you can keep your stories alive and your screens shining bright. TV licenses. Pay yours. Make a difference.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let's speak to Joe in Cape Town. Good morning to you, Joe.
Good morning. I just wanted to talk about, somebody asked the question, why should we support Iran?
Yes.
Well, the same Iran supported our struggle, where they could have said, no, why should we support South Africa? But that is what Iran does. It supports resistance against imperialism. That's why it supports the Palestinians, where they can say, okay, now we'll be like Saudi Arabia, we'll be a puppet of the West. But they decide not to. Secondly, the person also mentioned that, they'll treat people. The Iranian government is not perfect, like any government in the world. Just like Trump, when ICE agents are shooting people through the face. Iran does make mistakes. But one thing that Trump has done in Iran, you have women without hijab now waving Iranian flags in Iran, saying, we don't agree with the government, but we're not going to allow a foreign country to bomb our schools, kill our little girls, and we're not going to allow a foreign country to invade. We will defend our nation against the United States. This is what, Trump has done. It has, even those people that were protesting against the government of Iran are now coming out against the United States. And you see that in the Kurdish communities, they're coming out in support of the Iranian government. The Christians, the Armenian Christians, they're coming out in support of the Iranian. Even the Jewish community in Iran, they're coming out in support of the Iranian government. And that's why you see this unity in Iran, where, all the plots that Israel and the United States have plotted against Iran have failed, Tens of thousands, if not millions of people every night coming out waving Iranian flags in support of the government.
Just a quick one, Joe.
So thank you very much, Mr. Trump. You've united the Iranians, and Iran should continue. There should be no ceasefire. Thank you for taking my call.
All right, Joe. Thank you for that. That's Joe out in Cape Town. Let me go to Sydney in Akonhoek. Good morning to you, Sydney. You want to talk to me about homeschooling this morning?
Sydney, the labor in Akonhoek, Pushback Ridge.
Yes.
Brother Tulas, you just spoke with the guest there about homeschooling. Yeah, that one is feasible for well-off families, and it's for those who can, let them do it. They can bring in tutors, they can bring in private teachers, whoever they can source to assist their children.
Yes.
But then let me bring a slight dimension away from that one, but still about learning.
Yes.
But in schools, public schools, where mostly we educate children from indigent families, maybe less parents who are educated or learned or totally never been to school, they only see schooling through their children. A few days ago, we were writing National Science and Science and Technology. But what disturbed us in our school, Powerline Primary here in Akonhoek, it's a dual language school. We've got the Tsonga speaking and the Sotho speaking. Then English comes as a first additional language. But when they enter the exam rooms to write the National Science and Tech, we had to split them based on their ethnic language, based on their tribal language. The Sotho speaking, go to this class. Tsonga speaking, go to this class. With this, it reminded me back then, government of Leboa, government of Gazankulu. It's like now, the curriculum developers currently, if that's what BELA stands for, it promotes, in my own interpretation, I might not be correct. I need to be assisted here. But when I look at it, it promotes tribalism. It promotes ethnicism. Then it means today, children, 2026 going forward, you will be taught by your ethnic language, through your tribal language. Then where is our cohesion as a nation? Surely, if this is the case, give parents then an option on admission form in January, each and every year, or September, whatever the admission time arises, September time for the following year. Let there be a clause where parents must choose a language of learning for their children. If they want it to be done in that ethnic group, it must be their choice.
All right.
Those who want it to be done in English, it must be their choice. But let's don't just impose this on these indigenous parents, whom they don't even understand what is the true reflection in schools.
All right.
But this one doesn't, I doubt with this. How competent our children will be internationally in the global village.
All right, Sydney, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your input. That's Sydney in Akonhoek there, talking about the language policies. I'm not so au fait with some of what Sydney was raising, to be quite honest. It might be worth reaching out to the Department of Basic Education to try and get a better understanding of how this links to the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act, BELA. And some of the practices that Sydney was talking to. Let me end it off with some of your voice notes.
Morning, Tulas. It's Chris in Camberton. You know, it's very exciting to see many South Africans rising and really challenging the corrupt culture that has been embedded in most public services. But it's also worrisome when people tend to want to see who is raising the issues, whether it's a white South African or not. For once, let us all rise together and be united in challenging corruption, because our future, brighter future, depends on the actions that we take today.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Good morning to the SAFM listeners. It is no surprise to hear these allegations happening at Tshwane. I'm not surprised at all. The corruption enabler for me is this tender system. We really need to get rid of the tender system that we currently have. Segwanele Pretoria.
Segwanele, thank you. Chris, thank you for that. Let me end it off with this voice note, simply because I am curious about how government is trying their best.
Good morning, Tulas. Yeah, no, I just want to follow up. What does we try our best mean? I mean, yesterday you were talking to a lady from Port Elizabeth with regard to electricity. They said they tried their best. Today in the morning, you're talking to the municipality fire department. They say they tried their best. What is to try your best? It's like everybody is shifting from answering the question and just saying we tried our best.
Okay, I get you. Thank you for that. And the question, I suppose, is your best good enough? That is the question. Thank you for listening and thank you for your engagement as always. The Talking Point with Kathy Mthatha up next on SAFM. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane and you've been briefed.
In our top stories, MK Party launches court bid to block Batoy's pension, and Tiffany Meek back in court in Jaden Lee murder case. Good morning. The MK Party will approach the Pretoria High Court on an urgent basis to block what it calls the unlawful release of former National Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Shamila Batoy's pension funds and other benefits. The party expressed serious doubt over Batoy's fitness to remain in office and fears she could still pocket a large gratuity payment despite those concerns. Mzanele Mane is an MK Party MP.
We started the process basically early last year, 2025. We had written to President Ramaphosa to appeal to him to invoke Section 12 of the NP